Hello, guys, and welcome to Reincarnated as a Stick, Chapter 26.
Ha! Are you ready to become my stepping stone? Aura said as he sniggered. As usual, he forgot that the branch he was facing was an S-grade inanimate, an inanimate that has a pretty solid soul. Hence he was shocked to hear words come out of the young tree as it said,
Oh ho!
"A measly inferior stick dares to fight against me, Arrogancia, who is almost at the level necessary to evolve to greater heights." Horus truly didn't expect to see the enemy in front of him talk. After a while, he stared at the young tree with his soul perception eye skill as he slapped himself back and forth with his non-existent hands.
Why do you always keep forgetting that your enemies have some sort of sentience?
Do you want to look like a fool in front of them? Horus slapped himself multiple times as he burned this statement in his mind. After a while, he stopped slapping himself and looked at the young tree in front of him with a deeper gaze. "Species analysis," he commanded. Species analysis, a skill forged from the combination of the system's identification skill and the ally appraisal skill he got after unlocking the ally system. This would be the first time he would see its prowess. Ding. And he would surely be shocked. __. Arrogancia, young tree. Existence level, inanimate, S. Level, 18 of 20. HP, 1050 of 1050. SP, 300 of 300. Stats. Toughness, 103. Thickness, 128. Root rigidity, 110. Skills. Uncheckable due to the species analysis, skills low level. __. Horus was dumbfounded at the young tree's status screen that was in front of his screen. Although he knew that S-grade inanimates were incredibly superior when it came to stats thanks to a better class seed, it still shocked Horus. He then closed the screen, exactly at the moment that the young tree named Arrogancia started to talk once more.
You're not saying anything? Are you that eager to offer your life to me? Then,
in the midst of Arrogancia's talk, it charged towards Horus with its roots sticking out of the ground. It was traveling at a speed that was fast when compared to other sticks, but that was only compared to other sticks.
Submit.
Whoosh! At that moment, Arrogancia commanded one of its roots to dart towards Horus' important part, the SP vessel, which was also known as the SP storage. If Horus lost this, he wouldn't be able to attack Arrogancia at all. Horus looked at Arrogancia's attack and smiled as he used his movement skill to dodge the root. While Arrogancia was still immersed in controlling its root, Horus went closer to Arrogancia as he prepared a lance made out of anima. In an instant, the anima lance exuded an aura of intense sharpness as if it could through anything. Not long after, Horus shot it out towards Arrogancia's unprotected trunk. Spirit Lance, Judgment. Bang! Since Horus was already near to Arrogancia's trunk and all of his skills were imbued with the wind element thanks to his new spirit energy core, the time needed for the anima lance to hit Arrogancia was already near instant. Ding! You have dealt 178 HP damage to Arrogancia. Horus looked at this amount of damage and couldn't help but let out a sigh of amazement. Even though it only removed around 1 of 10 of Arrogancia's HP, the amount of damage he dealt would already be able to deal with most A-grade inanimates within 2 shots of this. God! Arrogancia was caught in a daze after realizing that Horus wasn't struck by its root and it was attacked by the one it tried to attack. Of course, from its name alone, it had a high amount of pride, which meant that it thought that losing to A-grade was extremely shameful. Arrogancia rotated its body to look at Horus as it said, how dare you tarnish my beautiful trunk." Within seconds, dozens of tough yet thin roots started to envelop Horus' body, including the animus created from the revitalizing anima creation skill.
Since you dared to defy me, I won't delay my victory any further. Life siphoning.
At that instant, the roots covering Horus' body started to glow an intense green. If one were to look closely, the green aura covering Horus gradually weakened. The vibrance of Horus cells was also decreasing. Ding! Ding! You have received 8 HP damage from Arrogancia. You have received 8 HP damage from Arrogancia. You have received 8 HP damage from Arrogancia. Without Arrogancia directly attacking him, he already lost a quarter of his HP. Although he was stuck in this situation, Horus didn't panic as he checked his SP bar.
I still have 75 SP left.
Horus mumbled to himself.
I guess it's enough to use that skill.
He then closed his eyes as all of the anima on his body started to change into a state of fluidity, slowly dripping out of the gaps between Arrogancia's roots. Form morph. __. Form morph, level 1 of 3. Grade C, mortal. Experience 0 of 3. A spiritus can change into multiple forms thanks to the cells that build up its body, the anima. Changeable forms, liquid, branch formosus, sapling. SP cost, 10 SP. __. As Arrogancia was laughing with glee at its own intelligence, it gradually felt something wet dripping on its roots. It was at the direction of where it was siphoning the life out of Horus. At the moment where it turned its field of vision around, Horus was no longer there. Arrogancia looked at this with slight confusion before shouting loudly as it madly laughed.
It's finally dead. Ha ha ha. That's right, no one can defeat Arrogancia.
As it continued to laugh, it suddenly heard a voice coming from behind its current field of vision.
Sure, but I'll be beating you now.
Spirit Lance, sanction. In an instant, 5 anima lances hovered over Horus' body as a notification screen popped up in front of his field of vision. Ding! Spirit Lance of 3 worlds has leveled up. As the level up happened, the aura emitted by the 5 lances slightly grew stronger as they simultaneously collided with Arrogancia's trunk. Bang! 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 Ding! Ding! As the 5 lances collided, 5 notification screens simultaneously appeared in front of Horus' field of vision. Nonetheless, he removed them and decided to look at Arrogancia's HP bar, which was already near 50% HP. Tons of dust was flung up into the air as the lances and Arrogancia's trunk collided. It took a while for it to settle down, revealing Arrogancia's severely deformed trunk. Arrogancia looked at Horus and said out of shock,
How is this possible? It can't be.
As it continued to look at Horus, Horus was akin to a demon ready to kill it for good. Was its death becoming a reality? Arrogancia tried to move away from Horus with its roots, yet almost half didn't move according to its thoughts. Horus looked at this and smiled with a playful expression on his face. As he smiled, some of the floating anima Horus made that held SP converged on his body, turning into a sort of sphere that held a lot of SP. But within it was a crude magic circle, which only meant, I should test it out as well. Spell Core, Form. Chapter 27. Arrogancia, a young tree that was currently fighting against Horus. To be honest, Arrogancia wasn't really an arrogant branch. It was always fearful and cowardly. Ever since it was a small twig of the sea grade, it had a small inkling of a soul that allowed it to avoid strong enemies while gaining strength to turn these strong enemies into enemies it could beat. Along the way, that fearful personality gradually became filled with pride and confidence as it gained the ability to fight those at a higher level. But as its win streak continued, that pride and confidence was soon turned to arrogance. Yet at this moment, knowing that the branch in front of it had the ability to kill it at any time made it feel the emotions that the ones it killed felt. An intense emotion of rebellion and denial. It didn't want to accept its current fate. It knew it was going to die, but it didn't want to die without inflicting damage on the enemy. As Horus was creating his spirit spell core, Arrogancia decided to deny its current fate and try to bend it to its advantages. With that decision, it started to burn off a resource which many A, S, and X grades would never burn unless they were desperate.
Since I'm bound to die, why not try aiming for that chance of survival with the burning of this thing? I can accumulate more of it anyway.
Arrogancia didn't notice it, but it grew fearless as it wanted to escape the Reaper of Death named Horus. Within its body, a red flame started to spread all over the insides of Arrogancia and even extend outside. Arrogancia didn't feel any pain at all since its origin was a plant, but it did feel a surge of power that it could currently wield. A power insurmountable to the power it held before. Not long after, the red flame around Arrogancia intensified as it said a few words, filled with an unyielding will to survive. Call of Nature. Spell Core, Form. In an instant, some of the floating animus that held SP converged towards one part of Aura's body as a tendril made out of anima also extended out of Aura's body. The two of them connected together as the SP with Aura's SP vessel and the floating anima gathered toward the connection. The converged anima then transformed into a crystal-like core as powerful waves of SP could be tangibly felt. Aurus looked at this and nodded inwardly. It definitely feels like the spell core I used back then in my mage account, Aurus said as he was assured that he could use it to the best of its abilities. Although the difference is that it is imbued with the wind element and it can be controlled, it's still a spell core. Rather than dilly-dallying, Aurus started to arrange his thoughts as a spell was being casted through the spell core with the use of a crude magic circle within it that was formed out of SP. If humans had to chant an incantation before conjuring magic circles to form a spell, Styx only needed thoughts to conjure magic circles for spells, thus giving them an advantage over humans. As Aurus was feeling his SP being sapped away, he could also feel the terrifying aura that was being birthed within the core. Truly befitting of the spell core. Although it is the lowest grade, it still holds insurmountable power when compared to skills. __. Lowest spirit spell core, wind variant, level 1 of 3. Grade C, mortal. Experience 0 of 3. A Spiritus is a master of energy manipulation. This ability is magnified thanks to spell cores. With a spell core and innate ability of Spiritus to wield spells like swords, spells that could be controlled are casted, giving it the apt name of the spirit spells, spells akin to having a spirit. With the Spiritus' affinity to the wind element, all spells are imbued with the wind element. Spell repertoire increases as the spell core gains experience. Magic spells deal 1% more damage. Spell repertoire, Spirit Wind Bolt. __. As the spell core's aura finally reached a climax, Aurus casted the spell and shot it towards Arrogancia as a green bolt of energy started to head towards Arrogancia's injured trunk. Spirit Wind Bolt. Whoosh. Imbued with the wind element, the energy bolt darted towards Arrogancia's injured trunk in an instant, yet it suddenly disappeared without a trace. Aurus didn't expect this situation at all. He thought that he used up all of the young tree's trump cards, but it seemed that there was still one more he missed. Arrogancia started to emit a terrifying aura that didn't lose to the spirit wind bolt Aurus sent as red flames enveloped its body. Aurus looked at this and easily understood what the young tree in front of him was doing. It's going to use up its accumulated vitality points as a way to gain temporary power to fight against me. Vitality points, points that were needed in order for the sapling path of branches to evolve to higher grades. As for those who followed the branch Formosa's path of branches, it was spirit points, not to be confused with Aurus spirit points. Although both of them were polar opposites in terms of effect, there was something the 2 point types had in common. They could be used to gain temporary power. Grah. Arrogancia started to scream as it gained temporary control over its roots. The spirit wind bolt, dissipating in an instant, was because Arrogancia swiped it away with its roots covered in red flames. Once the current threat was removed, Arrogancia focused its gaze towards Aurus, the one that made it realize that there were branches like him who could fight against branches of a higher level. Swoosh! 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 Dozens of roots started to head towards Aurus at a speed that was beyond his limit. Naturally, he received quite a bit of damage. Ding! Ding! You received 16 HP damage from Arrogancia. You received 16 HP damage from Arrogancia. You received 16 HP damage from Arrogancia. He tried to dodge all of the roots that came for him, but he wasn't able to dodge all of them, leading to 3 roots inflicting a considerable amount of damage to him. With this, Aurus only had around 16 HP left. 16 of 88 HP. To anyone who played RPG games, having critically low HP would mean that the player has to drink a healing potion as soon as possible. As for ISE, there was no healing potion at all players relied on natural recovery. Some gained skills to boost this recovery while some found ways to dodge the attacks they received as they recovered health. Of course, Aurus fell into the former. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, the 5 anima that was currently restoring SP turned into anima that recovered his HP at a rate that was incomparable to before. As he changed the purposes of the anima, Horus also activated another skill. Tempest Burst. Whoosh! The weak green aura currently surrounding Horus turned into a solid and intense neon green as the skill was activated. If one looked pretty closely, it was quite close to looking like green flames. Horus didn't panic at all as he dodged the next few dozen roots with his boosted movement speed. Arrogancia saw this and shot out a few more dozen roots in a fit of rage, only to be dodged once more by Horus. After 3 seconds or so of dodging, Horus' HP was halfway recovered thanks to the boosted HP recovery rate. He didn't change back to recovering his SP as a skill came to mind. He looked at the raging Arrogancia with a calm and serious gaze as he said, Spirit Energy Sacrifice. Chapter 28. Note, Vitality points and Spirit points have been changed to Life and Will points respectively to avoid confusion. Spirit Energy Sacrifice. Whoosh! In an instant, the remaining SP that Horus had was being sapped away as a silver flame started to cover his body. From an outsider's perspective, the bar that showed his remaining SP decreased to 0 in an instant, and then not long after, silver flames covered Horus' body. Ding! Of course, Horus didn't notice what he has done. Your SP is being sapped in exchange for power. Shit! Horus couldn't help but curse at the notification. I activated the wrong skill. Gah! Spirit channeling. Whoosh! If before, his SP was being drained to 0, at this moment his HP was being rapidly drained until Horus had 1 HP left. But that didn't happen. At times, there would be cases where Horus' HP would be close to 1, but it didn't reach it. This was all thanks to the 5 anima Horus made that had a specialized purpose of either regenerating his HP or SP. Not long after, multiple notification screens appeared in front of Horus' vision. Ding! Ding! Your HP is being transformed into SP. Your SP is being sapped in exchange for power. Your HP is being transformed into SP. Your SP is being sapped in exchange for power. Spirit Energy Sacrifice has leveled up. Spirit Channeling has leveled up. Although it has only been around 2 seconds since Horus activated the 2 skills, they already amassed enough experience to level up, reducing amount of HP and SP being drained from his body. Then again, the both of them were only at the C grade. Arrogancia felt a small sense of danger after looking at Horus, but didn't mind it as it remembered that it sacrificed all of its life points in exchange for power that surpassed its limits. Not recognizing the possible consequences of this ignorance, Arrogancia shot his roots once more towards Horus as the tips of the roots started to glow a faint silver. Root Barrage, Boosted Nature. Whoosh! 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 In the midst of Arrogancia's roots trying to hit Horus, multiple blurry silhouettes of roots the color of silver also mixed in between the attacks of those roots, putting Horus in a precarious situation. But who was Horus? He was a god-level existence within the game named Infinite Stick Evolution. Although he was reborn as a stick in the same world of the game, his memories that were recently unsealed gave Horus the confidence to avoid Arrogancia's attack. Tempestuous Spiritus Glide. Whoosh! After activating the skill, what Horus did was leave the skill's area of effect. Why would Horus bother dodging each and every root Arrogancia threw at him if he could just leave the skill's area of effect? He was a Spiritus with a smart soul. Why would he think inside the box like the other sticks? I can't believe you dodged that. Arrogancia couldn't believe it as this was the first time an enemy completely avoided its attacks. Horus then couldn't help but say in an awkward manner, "It's not that I dodged it, I just can't believe that you didn't change the attack's direction after I moved." Hey. Arrogancia's soul started to buffer after hearing Horus reply before saying, "What did you say? Something useless? I'm undefeatable with this boosted power. Taste it." Swoosh. 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 Rather than attacking Horus with quantity, Arrogancia instead controlled its roots to converge and spiral as it formed a lance-like shape. It then infused its SP into the roots, increasing its piercing power and speed as it headed towards Horus' direction. Take this. Unavoidable root lance. Whoosh! As expected, Horus easily avoided it with the help of his doubled movement speed thanks to Tempest Burst. He also used the momentum of his dodge to get closer to Arrogancia's trunk that was still injured after going berserk. At this exact moment, only 2 seconds remained before the effects of Tempest Burst disappeared. It was also at this moment that ding! Ding! Spirit Energy Sacrifice and Spirit Channeling has leveled up. Spirit Energy Sacrifice and Spirit Channeling has reached the max level. Spirit Energy Sacrifice and Spirit Channeling has met the necessary requirements needed and is ready to evolve. As Horus saw these notifications simultaneously popping up, Horus let out a small chuckle. This was what he was waiting for. It is an honor to fight against you, Arrogancia, Horus continued, but you'll have to die here. In an instant, a menacing aura could be felt coming from Horus as one of the floating anima quickly transformed into a lance as it pierced into Arrogancia's trunk, giving Horus some free time to do what he needed to do. Ding! Horus has dealt damage worth 356 HP to Arrogancia. Wow, that's a lot of damage actually, Horus couldn't help but say to himself as 3/10 of Arrogancia's was removed in an instant. Then again, the stick's defense stat is useless, for the most part. The defense stat. One of the 3 main stats for sticks other than attack and HP. Although this stat grew every time a stick leveled up and evolved, it never did anything useful. All of the players also noticed this and then did a lot of experiments in order to find out why. After a while, it was then revealed that the defense stat only took effect towards slashing attacks. Stabbing, piercing, and blunt attacks bypassed the defense stat, which was unfortunately the majority of the attacks of the sticks, thus most people ignored this stat until they reached the animate level. Ding! Ding! The exchange of SP into power has reached its limit, boosting the user's power by 30%. The SP bar has been completely filled, thus the Spirit Channeling skill has been deactivated. Being lost in his own world, Horus was brought back to reality after hearing those 2 notifications. Horus instantly remembered what he was going to do and commanded, evolve all the skills that can be evolved at this instant. Ding! Ding! In that instant, 3 skills were evolved to a higher grade. Only 1.5 seconds remain before the effect of Tempest Burst disappears. Spirit Energy Sacrifice has been evolved to Spirit Energy Augmentation. Spirit Channeling has been evolved to High Spirit Channeling. Wind Affinity has been evolved to High Wind Affinity. Why did Horus command the system to evolve all of the evolvable skills without choosing the path of evolution? It was because these skills didn't have any. All class-related skills only had one evolution path. The same goes with elemental affinity skills. After he evolved all of these skills, Horus activated the newly evolved Spirit Energy Augmentation and High Spirit Channeling in order for him to boost his power to its highest possible peak. After a second of repeated exchange between HP and SP, a few notifications popped up in front of Horus' vision. The exchange of SP into power has reached its limits, boosting the user's power by 50%. The SP bar has been completely filled, thus the High Spirit Channeling skill has been deactivated. Spirit Energy Augmentation and High Spirit Channeling has leveled up. After closing all of these notifications, Horus looked at Arrogancia's trunk that was close to being torn apart. After attacking its trunk once more, there was now a delay in its attacks, allowing Horus to unleash an attack. In an instant, the spell core that was attached on Horus' body started to light up once more as a crude magic circle materialized within again. That's right, Horus didn't destroy the spell core, although the skill had the option to do so. It was because he would need it for situations like these. Only half a second remained before the effect of Tempest Burst would disappear. It took 0.3 seconds for the magic circle to finish conjuring the energy bolt that looked stronger than before. Seeing that time was short, he threw it without hesitation. Whoosh! Spirit Wind Bolt. Bang! Since he was already close to Arrogancia's trunk and the energy bolt hit the injured spot, it was not unexpected to see Arrogancia's body explode and scatter around a certain radius as multiple splinters of various shapes and sizes. It was a good thing there was no blood, since it would definitely make someone gag at first glance. Oris looked at the conclusion of their fight and noticed that Arrogancia's roots were still firmly stuck on the ground. Not long after, these roots started to decay as green and red blobs of energy headed towards Oris' body. Oris didn't reject them at all, as he knew its purpose. He then looked one more time at the scattered remains of Arrogancia before continuing onwards on his journey towards the Tempest Ruin. Ding! Oris has dealt 529 HP damage to Arrogancia. Experience plus 200. Congratulations! Oris has leveled up. Congratulations! Oris has leveled up. 8 life points have been obtained from Arrogancia's remains. 3 will points have been obtained from Arrogancia's remains. The life and will bar have been unlocked. Skills related to the life and will bar have been unlocked. Chapter 29. Life and will points. Oris mumbled to himself as he continued to roll towards the Tempest Ruin. The silver flame covering his body a while ago had already dissipated since he wasn't fighting anymore. To Oris, who had retrieved the memories of his early game stages, he was far too familiar with life and will points. Life and will points were the prerequisites needed in order to evolve to a higher grade and eventually into a higher level of existence. Normally, it would be either one of the two, with life points for those of the sapling path and will points for those of the branch formosus path. Although both of them fulfill the same thing at evolution, it was also a peek at the ideologies of the two paths. The sapling path was all about accepting the blessings of the world and becoming one with the world, thus allowing them to have exuberant vitality at the animate level of existence. As for those of the branch formosus path, they have decided to carve their own path as they didn't want to accept the blessings of the world. They had the belief that they could become someone great even without it, ending up having an unyielding will and a fierce spirit once they reach the animate level of existence. Sapling, young tree, mature tree, treant, Oris continued to mumble as he remembered the evolution paths for the two paths: branch formosus, branch forminosus, branch forminosus grandius, sentient branchus. After a while, he shook these thoughts off his head as he remembered he was a spiritus. How could he follow the evolution path of those two paths if his species was a combination of both paths? What he knew was that he should make his foundation strong right now before evolving. He had already wasted 2 chances before. In preparation for that, he checked the 3 skills he evolved a while ago. Ding! __. Spirit Energy Augmentation, LV, 2 of 5. Grade B, Mortal. As a spiritus, they wield energy like a swordsman who has used the sword for multiple years. At times, the power of a spiritus is lacking, hence they sacrifice their SP in exchange for a percentage boost in their overall stats, allowing them to fight against multiple enemies at the same time. The conversion rate of SP to power improves every level up. Conversion rate, 1.75 SP-1% boost. Maximum boost, 60% in all stats. Cooldown, 3 hours. __. High Spirit Channeling, LV, 2 of 5. Grade B, Mortal. As a spiritus, they are the children of energy, easily manipulating and utilizing energy. At times, they end up having a deficiency in SP, hence they sacrifice their HP for SP. The conversion rate of HP to SP improves at every level up. Conversion rate, 1.75 HP-1 SP. Cooldown, 1.5 hours. __. High Wind Affinity, LV, 1 of 5. Grade B, Mortal. Peering into the intrinsic qualities of the wind surrounding you, you have gained a deeper comprehension of the wind, a comprehension wherein the movements of wind can either work with you or fight against your enemy. Damage and projectile speed of skills and spells have been increased by 5%. All skills and spells are imbued with the wind element. Definitely some good skills that would help me deal damage and last longer. Oris couldn't help but smile as he looked at the 2 additional bars hovering above his body. The green and blue bars represented his HP and SP respectively, while the 2 additional bars were colored yellow and red. Oris instantly knew what they were, given the fact that their length was nowhere near the preceding 2. Open status screen, Oris commanded. Ding! __. Oris, level 6 of 10. Experience, 0 of 170. Species, wind walnut spiritus, rare. Existence level, inanimate. Grade, A. HP, 135 of 135. SP, 90 of 90. Life, 8 of 100. Will, 3 of 100. Stats. Tenacity, 20. Vitality, 30. Spirit, 35. Synchronization rate, 40%. And used experience points, 0. And used Genesis points, 0. __. While looking at his status screen, 2 new stats appeared, which Oris was expecting since it was announced by the system a while ago after he fought against Arrogancia. Holy heck, I have higher HP now? Oris then looked at his current HP and SP and was shocked to see that his HP increased substantially by just increasing 2 levels. Oris mulled over it for a bit before remembering the class seed he had. Since my SP is now lacking compared to my HP, I should level up my anima creation skill, Oris said to himself as he continued to roll. Anima creation, which was previously known as fruit creation before he became a spiritus, was the reason why Oris had a large amount of SP. And since a spiritus is supposed to have large amounts of SP, he wanted it to stay that way. Hence, disperse. Whoosh. All of the floating anima, including the 5 specialized anima, dispersed in an instant as all of them came back to Oris' body. Not long after, he spoke once more. Form. Whoosh. Without any delay, the 16 animus that held SP and the 5 animus for HP/SP recovery formed once more as they hovered around Oris' body. And now. Repeat. The Tempest Cliff was renowned as a dangerous place for A-grade inanimates and below. If they were brave enough, they would only tread the outskirts and then leave. Hence, it was shocking to the group of sticks that detected an A-grade inanimate getting closer and closer to the center of the Tempest Cliff. These group of sticks were located at a somewhat hidden place inside the Tempest Cliff. This place was cleaned up and carved into a neat hall, as if it was man-made. But the only things inside were sticks. How the heck did that branch fight against the S-grade branches? A large branch started to ask as all of them looked at an image in the center of the hall, as if it was a large television screen. To be honest, every branch within this hall was either a small tree, a large branch, or an even larger branch. In other words, this hall was only filled with S and X-grade inanimates who were close to becoming animates. To be honest, it baffles me as well since we've seen its attacks a while ago. A small tree replied as a thread of SP darted towards the image, making the image more vibrant than before. This tree was the one who conjured the image. Its name was Lauren, an S-grade young tree. Didn't you see how it attacked that young tree? It used magic spells. Magic. And that magic was of course at a level that is normally impossible for an A-grade inanimate to wield. I think he's a mutated species of branch formosus, Energistus. An extremely large branch commented on how the A-grade inanimate was able to cast magic, since it was a mage as well. This large branch was named Harel, an X-grade branch Grandius Forminosus, High Energistus. The branches and trees continued to argue with one another on the feat the A-grade inanimate did. All of a sudden, a looming energy covered the whole hall, making the whole hall silent as they looked at the being who exuded this energy. It was an extremely large branch, akin to Harel. But its body was covered in red carvings, as if it was a cursed branch. No one dared to blurt it out loud because they knew that these carvings served another purpose. This branch right here was the leader of all the branches and trees inside the hall. Its name? Aurelia, an X-grade branch Grandius Formosus, Blood Belhazard. Not only that, it had already completed all the requirements needed to evolve to an animate, but it was waiting for something. Aurelia looked at the image in the center of the hall and examined the A-grade inanimate intently. After a while, it opened its mouth as it shouted, "It's not weird for that A-grade inanimate to tread inside the Tempest Cliff without any fear. It is a spiritus, a stronger being compared to all of you in terms of evolution." Hearing these words, all of the branches and trees were furious, but they remembered that Aurelia was the most knowledgeable when it came to these things, so they shut up. After a while, Aurelia spoke once more. "It seems that it is heading for the Tempest Ruin." Harel, Lauren, I want you to follow that Spiritas and make it join our Tempest Branch Alliance. The addition of a Spiritas into our alliance will allow us to fight against animates without any problem. Chapter 30. 7 hours have passed since Oris killed Arrogancia and started rolling towards the Tempest Ruin as he grinded experience to level his skills up. During this somewhat long duration of time, Oris easily finished grinding, revitalizing anima creation to its max level, allowing it to evolve to S grade if Oris wished to do so. Oris thought that revitalizing anima creation was the easiest skill to level up since the experience was easily given after just forming one anima, but thanks to him repeatedly dispersing and forming all of his anima, Oris was able to fill the experience bars needed to level it up. At the moment, he now had 25 floating animus that all held 15 SP, stick points, within and 10 specialized animus that would boost his SP or HP recovery whenever he needed. It only took him around 30 minutes of the 7-hour time frame to max this skill out, thus he decided to move to the other skills he had, first of which was the lowest spirit spell core, Wind variant. Since it was C grade and Oris had a massive stockpile of SP, spirit points, thanks to maxing out his anima creation skill, the skill was easily maxed out, with the Spirit Energy Core, Wind variant, and the Purified Spiritas SP Vessel, gaining levels as well since both gain experience whenever any skill or spell that consumed SP was used. In fact, the former skill was also C grade, hence it reached the max level easily as well. After maxing out his main method of attacking according to his current species, he then changed his focus to maxing out the Spirit Lance of Three Worlds, previously known as the Nut Trident Triad. Oris knew the value of having 3 methods of attacking condensed into one skill, and he hoped that the amount of methods of attacking would just grow bigger once he maxed it out and evolved. With the accompaniment of his large amounts of SP, spirit points, the 10 specialized animus that focused on recovering his SP, Oris started wreaking havoc on the path he treaded, making sure to shoot out a lance whenever the cooldown was finished. At first, he tried using the sanctioned form of the Spirit Lance since it shot out multiple lances every second, but he found out that it didn't raise experience as fast as just shooting a Lance of the Judgment or Law form, so he shot the latter 2 forms instead after realizing. After he finished maxing the Spirit Lance out, he then checked the other skills he had that were still at the C grade, which were Wrath of the Spiritas, Unyielding Spiritas, and Form Morph. He knew that he would waste lots of time on grinding the first 2 since both had long cooldowns and was meant to be used as life-saving skills, while the remaining one was a technique that could be activated and used at any time as long as he had SP. And so he grinded that since he noticed that Purified Spiritas SP Vessel was nearing the max level. While grinding the skill, he would turn into liquid at times, or his body would turn brown as he slightly grew in size, or perhaps he would grow multiple roots that would affix him to where he was. Nonetheless, it was quite easy for him to grind it to its max level since it was only a C-grade skill. Oris looked at the blue triangle above his body that had the number 2910 beside it, letting him know that there was only around 3 kilometers between him and the Tempest Ruin. Open the skill screen, Oris commanded. The system faithfully followed Oris' command and showed him the multiple skills he had at his arsenal as an A-grade inanimate. Ding. __. Active class skills. Lowest spirit spell core, Wind variant, LV.max, Spirit energy augmentation LV, 2, high spirit channeling LV, 2. Passive class skills. Spirit energy core, Wind variant, LV, max, Spiritas seed LV, 6. Active species skills. Tempestuous Spiritas glide LV, 3, Spirit Lance of Three Worlds LV, max, Form Morph LV, max, Wrath of the Spiritas LV, 1, Unyielding Spiritas LV, 1. Passive species skills. Soul Perception ILV, 1, High Wind Affinity LV, 1, Purified Spiritas SP Vessel LV, max, Revitalizing Anima Creation LV, max, Treader of Two Paths LV, 1, Spirit and Life Vessel Manifestation LV, 1, Blessing of the Reincarnation Goddess LV.max. Active Life and Will skills. Blooming Vitality LV, 1, Indomitable Will LV, 1, Sentience LV, 1. __. He counted that the current amount of skills he had and got to a total of 19 skills. Compared to normal A-grade inanimates, he had around 7 to 9 more skills when compared to them, allowing him to gain an edge over them. Then again, most of them are passive skills, and the life and will skills are only available once I have enough life and will points. Oris couldn't help but sarcastically laugh at the amount of skills he had. He stopped rolling and scanned his surroundings with the help of the Spirit Detection Wind variant spell he obtained after maxing his spell core. Seeing that there were no enemies, Oris took a deep breath before commanding the system. Evolve all of my evolvable skills. Unknown Continent, Seraph Kingdom, Arcana Tower. Greater Appraisal. Swoosh! A large magic circle conjured above the place where Aria was standing and made her visibly shudder. In an instant, she thought that she was going to be killed by her teacher, but she instantly calmed down after hearing Dane say, "Relax and don't resist, this is a greater appraisal spell. I can make a better way of ranking up if you don't resist. Who knows, we might find a special class for you." Aria's eyes glistened after hearing the phrase special class. To every person living within the world of Iridinia, a special class was enough for them to become a distinguished person and be respected anywhere they went. If possible, Aria wanted a special class as well. Hence, she calmed down and closed her eyes, waiting for the appraisal spell to finish. Wing! A beam of light shot out of the magic circle and enveloped Aria within. From Aria's perspective, it didn't hurt at all, as she just felt a weird sensation of every secret she had being revealed. She didn't have any hidden secret or anything like that, hence she was able to stay calm under the beam of light disappeared. Not long after the disappearance of the light beam, the magic circle flew towards the parchment Dane held up and filled the piece of parchment with the ancient runes of an ancient race commonly known by all mages. After seeing that the imprinting process on the parchment was over, Dane said to Aria, who still had her eyes closed, "It's over now, give me a few moments." He then placed his chair nearer to the table where the orb was placed and neatly placed the parchment on the table. As he read the runes written on the parchment, from top to bottom, Dane's eyes were filled with surprise, then shock, then excitement. __. Area, Rank 2, Mage. Level, 20 of 20. HP, 72 of 72. MP, 110 of 110. Stats. Strength 20. Vitality 36. Defense 19. Intelligence 72. Agility 24. Spells learned. Level 0 spells 11. Level 1 spells 1, lower. Skills. Passive, Hasty Spellcasting LV, 5 of 10, Mana Efficiency LV, 3 of 5, Mana Manipulation LV, 2 of 5, Spell Mastery LV, 2 of 3, Tetraelemental Affinity LV. 1 of 3, Do. C. S. N. __. With intense fervor, Dane stood up and held Aria's hands, making Aria shocked since it was rare for her teacher to get closer to her. What is it, teacher? Aria couldn't help but ask. Dane's eyes glimmered as he looked at Aria. After a while, he realized his current position and lightly coughed as he sat back down. He then replied, "To rank up to a rank 3 class, increase your MP limit to 150, your intelligence to 100, vitality to 50 so it can hold your MP, and also learn another lower level 1 spell and try to cast the lower level 1 spell you learned and then one you'll learn at the same time. With that, I assure you your rank 3 class would be great." Dane couldn't help but smile as he looked at Aria. Although the last passive skill she had was blurred, Dane was able to infer the passive skill she could possibly wield. Dual casting. With her question answered, Aria memorized the requirements her teacher gave him and bowed respectfully before leaving. Coincidentally, an image of a weird-looking branch appeared within Dane's mind. He closed his eyes and tried to guesstimate the location of the weird-looking branch. After a while, he opened his eyes as he grabbed a nearby map and made an X mark on one part of the Tempest Cliff with a quill dipped in ink. Dane lightly smiled as he mumbled to himself, with the Spiritus as the main material of His Highness' new weapon, would that possibly raise its rarity to grand? After crossing a spot on the map, Dane then grabbed the crystal he used to contact His Highness Prince Vanadir and instead contacted 2 other people, who fortunately picked up at the instant Dane called. "If it isn't Dane, what do you need?" A boisterous voice could be heard from the other side of the crystal. Although Dane hated loud voices, he knew who he was talking to. Clearing his throat, Dane then said to the voice on the other side of the crystal, "Arton, I want you to call Mira and join her. Afterwards, head towards the Tempest Cliff and capture a weird-looking branch named Asperitas. Once you capture it and give it to me, I'll make sure to give you a lot of gold." Chapter 31. Once you capture it and give it to me, I'll make sure to give you a lot of gold. On the other side of the crystal, a muscular man who had multiple scars on his face couldn't help but laugh at the words spoke by Dane. Every movement done by this muscular man showed clumsiness and joy, but whenever he's in battle, these movements exuded strength, fear, and a power to destroy everything. This man was Arton, a rank 2 battle warrior, a person who moves for money, and of course, Dane's acquaintance. How much gold we are talking about here? 200? 500? Since it's just a stick, think of it as a discount from me. Arton continued to laugh as he talked in a boisterous manner. On the other side, Dane thought about the words Prince Vanadier told him before searching for the wind walnut branch that now evolved into Asperitas of the wind element. Around a week ago. The wind walnut branch, Dane replied. The wind walnut branch? Is it any different from the wind branch? Prince Vanadier inquired because he wanted to add as much special effects to the sword he was going to craft as possible. Dane then said, "As I've said before, Your Highness, the wind walnut branch is a mana-infused wind branch, which means not only does it contain the wind element that allows your future sword to swing faster, it also contains mana which could be used to affix runes on the sword so it could cast spells." Vanadier's eyes glistened as he listened to the words Dane said from the other side of the crystal. Thinking about it for a bit, he was shocked as he asked, "Wait, does that mean that the possible rarity of the sword with the wind walnut branch as the catalyst would be magic grade?" "Not just magic grade," Dane lightly chuckled. "There's also a chance for it to become a grand grade weapon. Normal, magic, grand. These are 3 most basic grades of weapons found within the world of Iridinia. Nonetheless, they still hold immense power that could easily kill sticks. Grand grade." Prince Vanadier was drooling at the thought of having a grand grade weapon as a rank 2 junior windwalker. Wanting to make sure that the branch was obtained, Vanadier then said to Dane, "Dane, I'll give you access to 40% of my current assets. Use it wisely so you could grab the wind walnut branch and help me win the throne." Being a loyal servant of Prince Vanadier, Dane was going to make sure he would capture the wind walnut branch as fast as possible and even add in special items which could help boost the weapon to grand grade. "I shall follow your command, Your Highness." With an excited expression, Dane replied and hastily ended the call. Dane, who was talking to Arton, was reminded of the assets His Highness gave control to him, which amounted to more or less 100,000 gold. This amount would let any person live a carefree life from birth to death. But Dane was already a successful high mage of the Arcana Tower, earning hundreds of gold every day. Hence he replied to Arton with the number 5,000. 5,000? Arton's eyes widened on the other side of the crystal, not believing what Dane just said. A figure that large would be equal to the amounts he obtained after killing a rank 2 or rank 3 beast and extracting their important parts already. Thinking that the number Dane said was too big, he asked, 5,000? Are you talking about 5,000 silver? 1 gold was equivalent to 10 silver, so Arton was basically asking for 500 gold, a value he asked earlier. Nope, Dane denied Arton's question as he mentioned the number again. 5,000, I'm paying you 5,000 gold if you catch that weird branch. 5,000. Arton couldn't believe what he was hearing. Capturing a branch for 5,000 gold was like a godsend to him. Arton went back to his boisterous manner of talking and then said, "I got it. I'll make sure to capture that branch for you." Dane smiled and said his thanks before ending the call, leaving Arton to dream about the amount of gold he could possibly from a simple mission like this. Dane then couldn't help but mutter as he infused mana into the orb, "I wonder how long it'd take him to grab that branch." Ding! After Horus commanded the system to evolve the max-leveled skills he grinded along the way, 2 notification screens appeared in front of his field of vision, basically telling him that 2 skills that had a direct evolution path were easily evolved. Lowest Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant, has been evolved to Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant. Form Morph has been evolved to Greater Form Morph. I'll check out their details later, Oris mumbled to himself as 3 more notification screens appeared in front of him. Now these 3 notifications all had one thing in common. Choices. Ding. Ding. Underscore underscore. Please choose the skill you would like, Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant, to evolve into. Efficient Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Flux Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Underscore underscore. System, identify all of these possible skill evolutions with the most straight-to-the-point information as possible, Oris commanded as he had a feeling that the choices were similar to the SP storage skill evolutions. Ding. Ding. Underscore underscore. Wide Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Grade B, Mortal. Gaining proficiency in the condensing of stick points into spirit points, the core needs less stick points to condense into spirit points, thus having a larger amount of spirit points while having the same potency. The amount of usable SP has been decreased by 1 of 4. All skills and spells that utilize SP now use SP, thus dealing 10% increased damage. All skills and spells that utilize SP are imbued with the wind element. Underscore underscore. Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Grade B, Mortal. Instead of using less stick points to make 1 spirit point, the core has gained a new method of condensing stick points into spirit points, wherein the amount of spirit points stay the same, yet their purity and potency has been increased. The amount of usable SP stays the same. All skills and spells that utilize SP now use SP, thus dealing 15% increased damage. All skills and spells that utilize SP are imbued with the wind element. Underscore underscore. Flux Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Grade B, Mortal. Instead of focusing on expansion or potency, the core finds a way to hasten the recovery rate of spirit points instead of relying on recovery rate of stick points, thus allowing the core to replenish its spirit points faster. The amount of usable SP stays the same. All skills and spells that utilize SP now use SP, thus dealing 10% increased damage. The recovery rate of spirit points has been increased from 0 to 1 SP per minute. All skills and spells that utilize SP are imbued with the wind element. Underscore underscore underscore. Since Oris was following the path of the mages in ISE wherein the purer the energy, the better, Oris didn't hesitate to choose the Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Ding. Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant, has been evolved to Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. Okay. With that done, let's move on to the first offensive skill that hasn't disappointed ever since I got it. Ding. Underscore underscore. Please choose the skill that you would like, Spirit Lance of 3 Worlds, Special, to evolve into. Supreme Spirit Lance of 3 Worlds, Special. Spirit Trident of 4 Directions, Special. 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear, Special. Underscore underscore. At first glance, I could already see the effects of the first choice, which is just boosting the power of my current skill, so I'll skip that. System, identify the 2 remaining choices. Ding. Ding. Underscore underscore. Spirit Trident of 4 Directions, Special. Grade S, Mortal. An offensive skill based on the 4 cardinal directions of the world, north, south, east, and west. Each of these directions have their own special effects, only known after evolving to this skill. SP cost, 2 SP per second, Sanction form, 8 SP, Judgment form, 5 SP, Law form, -10 SP, north, south, east, and west direction. Cooldown, 15 seconds, -25 seconds. Note, the skill boasts the 4 basic elements of the world, fire, earth, water, and air. Underscore underscore. 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear, Special. Grade S, Mortal. An offensive skill based on the stages of melancholy throughout a person's life. The skill's 5 forms could be used consecutively, allowing each consecutive form to grow stronger in power or allow each form to stand alone, with each having their own special effects. Previous SP cost, 2 SP per second. Sanction form, 8 SP. Judgment form, 5 SP. Law form. Current SP cost, 10 to 50 SP. Usage from first form to final form, 50 SP. Denial form, 5 SP per second. Anger form, 25 SP. Bargaining form, 25 SP. Depression form, maximum amount of SP. Acceptance form. Cooldown, 15 seconds-15 seconds. Note, please check the special effects of the individual forms afterwards after evolving to this skill. __. After reading through the 2 skill evolutions, Horus easily made a decision as the skill allowed him to be more flexible than when he used the Spirit Lance. It also doesn't increase the cooldown unlike the other one, which made Horus choose this skill. Ding! Spirit Lance of 3 Worlds, Special, has been evolved to 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear, Special. And finally onto. Horus was eager to see the possible evolutions for the last skill, but then he remembered the skill he max leveled after looking at the choices. Oh. I don't have to think hard on this one. Ding! Revitalizing Anima Creation has been evolved to High Rejuvenating Anima Creation. Afterwards, after checking his skill screen one more time, Horus started to roll once more towards the Tempest Ruin. Not only was he going to roll towards the Tempest Ruin, he was also keeping a lookout for any possible punching BA branches to test his skills out on. Are there any branches willing to be my target? Chapter 32. Continuing onward to head towards the Tempest Ruin, Horus decided to check the ally system he obtained not long after he evolved into an A-grade inanimate. Thanks to my early game stage memories being unsealed, I can finally utilize this system to its highest potential. Horus couldn't help but mumble as he remembered the possibilities of the system. The ally system was an extension of the existence evolution system in ISE, in a way that the combination of allies you had allowed you to boost your power. The possibilities were endless, but there was only one rule needed to follow. You can only have 4 allies at most. Indeed, the game didn't care if you had allies at the animate, transcended, or even god level while still being an inanimate. To be honest, that just added more flexibility to the system than constraints. According to what Horus remembered, there was once a player who focused on the path of an assassin, mastering stealth. He then obtained allies that allowed him to boost his attack power, garnering him the moniker of the sure kill assassin in the early stages of the game. There was also one player who was a mage that yearned to become a Gatling gun of spells. She then sought out allies that helped her with SP recovery and SP storage, allowing her to fulfill just that. After reminiscing for a bit, Horus then commanded the system, open the ally gacha. Ding! In an instant, a colorful screen appeared in front of Horus' field of vision. This screen had 2 buttons that could be clicked, 2 buttons that were extremely familiar to gacha players. __. Ally gacha. Normal gacha, 500 SP for 1 pull. Premium gacha, 50 life and will points for 1 pull. __. Ah, the dreaded normal and premium gacha setup. Horus couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the requirements for the gachas. The normal gacha needed a huge amount of SP that Horus couldn't even get after evolving his anima creation to the S grade. Wait a second. At that instant, Horus felt that something was off. He then opened his skill screen and couldn't help but click his tongue. System, evolve, Purified Spirita's SP vessel into an S-grade skill that pursues purity, Horus commanded after noticing that his main SP storage skill didn't evolve. From this, Horus had a hunch that only 5 skills could be evolved at one time and kept it in his mind. Ding! Purified Spirita's SP vessel has been evolved to Supreme Purity Spirita's SP vessel. Horus then let out a sigh of relief before looking at the ally gacha screen one more time. I can do the normal gacha once I evolve my anima creation and SP storage skill to X grade while the premium gacha. A glint flashed in Horus' non-existent eyes. It's possible at my current grade. Without sparing any thought, he activated his Tempest Burst skill that only lasted 10 seconds and darted off towards the Tempest Ruin, hoping to find at least an A grade to kill. Around 10 hours later, with the help of his Spirit Detection Wind variant spell being used every few minutes or so, Horus finally detected a nearby enemy he could use as a sacrifice target. Whoosh! Without hesitation, Oris turned towards the direction of the enemy and rolled for over 50 meters before getting a closer look at the enemy he would be facing. The enemy was a branch rather than a young tree like Arrogancia. Nonetheless, it was more bulky than the A-grade branch Formosus Oris fought before he evolved, and it exuded a terrifying aura that made it feel like a tiger hunting out for prey. Making sure to not get caught by the enemy, Oris then commanded species analysis. Ding! Not long after, a screen containing the information of the branch was shown in front of Oris. __. Exos, branch Forminosis, Bell Hazard. Existence level, inanimate, S. Level, 12 of 20. HP, 750 of 750. SP, 135 of 135. Stats. Toughness, 95. Thickness, 82. Density, 130. Skills. Final Blow, Relentless Bloodthirst. Other skills are uncheckable due to species analysis, skill being low-leveled. __. Holy heck. At level 12, that's some high attack power, Oris couldn't help but blurt out. As he continued to check, he noticed that some of the enemy's skills were available for him to see, unlike at Arrogancia's case where none could be seen. Is it because Arrogancia is already near the X grade? Then again, I'm surprised that species analysis allows me to check the information of S-grade species. I should try it out in A-grade sometime. After being finished on blabbering about the wonderful effects of species analysis, Oris gradually went closer and closer to the branch as he started to conjure a spell using his newly evolved spell core. The spell that was being conjured by the spell core this time was unlike the Spirit Wind Bolt, as the magic circle formed within the spell core was more detailed than before, letting anyone know that it would pack more power than any magic spell Oris shot before. As he was preparing this spell, a silver flame started to envelop Oris' body, signaling that Oris was exchanging his SP for power using the Spirit Energy Augmentation skill. With the help of his newly evolved anima creation skill that basically tripled the amount of specialized anima he could use, the amount of SP Oris had at his disposal was basically his maximum. Ding! Spirit Energy Augmentation has leveled up. The exchange of SP into power has reached its limit, boosting the user's power by 70%. With the silver flame surrounding his body roaring at an all-time high, Oris then shot the spell he conjured towards the branch as he shouted to gain the attention of the enemy. Spirit Wind Ball. Ding! __. Spirit Wind Ball. One of the higher level 0 spells unlocked by evolving the spell core to the low grade. It condenses the bolt shape of the Spirit Wind Bolt into a small ball, allowing it to have more power while maintaining its controllability. SP cost, 50 SP. Cooldown, 20 seconds. __. NGH? Hearing a voice all of a sudden, the branch named Exos turned around to the direction of the voice it heard, only to be hit by a ball of energy. Bang! Brah! Exos was gravely injured from the ball's impact, clouding its rationality with its emotions as it was, of course, a Bell Hazard, otherwise known in fantasy terms as a Berserker. Ding! Oris has dealt 595 HP damage to Exos. Ho, that's a lot of damage, Oris couldn't help but say, remembering that one specific commercial of tape. Nonetheless, he couldn't stay for too long on remembering that commercial as he was up a Bell Hazard, a Berserker. And Oris definitely knew that a Bell Hazard was at its strongest, on its final legs. You hit me? You die. Exos, the branch that Oris just attacked, sensed Oris' presence and instantly darted towards there thanks to a passive skill that boosted all of its stats whenever its HP decreased. Take this. In an instant, Exos shot a splinter towards Oris, which Oris tried to dodge, only to end up being grazed by it a little. Ding! You have received 43 HP damage from Exos. Oris couldn't help but suck in a bit of the air around him, since if that splinter hit him head-on, he would die. His stats were already boosted by 70% thanks to the Spirit Energy Augmentation skill, but it was still nothing compared to a Bell Hazard's passive skill. As expected from an S grade, Oris couldn't help but say as he widened the gap between them. Exos didn't want that to happen, so it chased Oris, only to be hit by an energy bolt. Bang! Using the time he widened the gap between them, Aurus started to conjure the other offensive skill he had that wasn't on cooldown, Spirit Wind Bolt. Thankfully, his enemy took the bait and the bolt hit the branch head-on. Ding! Aurus has dealt 372 HP damage to Exos. Yes, it's finally dead. Aurus couldn't help but scream in joy as he remembered that Exos only had 750 HP. He had already dealt damage over that amount, so Exos was bound to be dead, right? GRRHHH. On its last legs, thanks to one of the passive skills of a Belhazard, it was able to survive Aurus' attack with 1 HP remaining. Without a choice, it shouted with anger, relentless bloodthirst. Wung. In an instant, the HP bar above its head that was almost completely black was instantly filled back up with to full health. Not only that, the branch was also covered with a red aura that exuded killing intent and instilled fear into every being that came into contact with it. Aurus looked at this and couldn't help but shudder as he almost forgot the invincibility passive Belhazards have. Without hesitation, he activated Tempest Burst once more as he wanted to truly widen the gap between them. But of course, Exos didn't allow that. Riga. Final blow. Exos then shot out a crimson-colored splinter towards Aurus that was moving at a speed faster than before. Thanks to Aurus activating Tempest Burst, with his quick reflexes, he was able to dodge it in the nick of time. Of course, Exos got angry at that, rolling towards Aurus at a speed incomparable to its speed from before. Using this time where Exos was rolling, Aurus conjured a Spirit Spear from one of the floating Animus and imbued into it an intent filled with engulfment and, well, total domination. This current Spirit Spear was the acceptance form of the 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear skill. It consumed all of the user's SP in exchange for insurmountable levels of attack power. With Aurus' maximum SP amount already exceeding 300 thanks to him evolving his Anima Creation skill and SP Storage skill, it was bound to deal a lot of damage. Bang! Spirit Spear, Acceptance. Like a shooting star, the Spirit Spear darted towards Exos, who was still rolling towards Aurus, and pierced through it like butter. Exos noticed it too late, as its body was already crumbling after the spear pierced through its body. It looked at Aurus like a mortal enemy and screamed out, "I can't die like this." Brah, before it died. It was still noticeable that its rationality was still clouded by rage. As for Aurus, the green and red blobs of light that came with every kill was absorbed into his body before continuing to roll towards the Tempest Ruin as he activated his Spirit Detection, Wind variant, spell every once in a while. Ding! Aurus has dealt 1,488 HP damage to Exos. Experience plus 150. 2 life points have been obtained from Exos' remains. 7 will points have been obtained from Exos' remains. Treader of 2 Paths, and Life and Will Vessel Manipulation has leveled up. Chapter 33. After fighting against Exos, Aurus decided to just hit his future enemies with the hardest hitting skill he had, which was the acceptance form of the 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear. If his enemies didn't die under the combination of Spirit Energy Augmentation and the Spirit Spear's acceptance, Aurus would then use the second hardest hitting skill he had, the Spirit Wind Ball. Using this tactic, he was able to kill a bunch of S-grade branches and trees without difficulty, obtaining their life and will points in the process. Of course, the experience gained wasn't meager in amount since Aurus was killing beings that were 1 grade higher than him. After killing all of them, he gained 3 levels and was already close to maxing his current grade, being at level 9. Only a few hundred meters remained between Aurus and the Tempest Ruin as he could make out the place he was going to head to. The Tempest Ruin was an old building destroyed by the raging winds as the dust created from the rubble was scattered all throughout the ruin. Not only that, the rigidity of the walls were basically obsolete, only needing 1 push of a finger for it to fall over. Of course, Aurus didn't head straight into the Tempest Ruin as he knew that some of his skills leveled up along the way. Since he was fighting, he muted the notification screen that popped up whenever his skills leveled up, only to let the feature be disabled. Not long after, a small bunch of notification screens appeared in front of Aurus' field of vision. Ding! 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 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear has leveled up. Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind variant, leveled up twice. Of course, the first notification screens to pop up were the offensive skills leveling up. It would be unusual for them to not level up after upgrading the level up synchronization feature on the system's OS, right? Supreme Purity Spirita's SP Vessel has leveled up. Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant, has leveled up twice. After the offensive skills were the skills that had something to do with SP. All of his skills used SP, so it would be unusual for them to level up. High Rejuvenating Fruit Creation has leveled up 5 times. Oris looked at this and couldn't help but lightly chuckle. I almost forgot about this one. I wonder how much SP I can hold now. The reason why High Rejuvenating Fruit Creation was able to level up 5 times was due to the fact that Oris felt that the attack power of the acceptance form wasn't high. Since the attack power of the form was proportional to the amount of SP he had, he decided to grind some levels on his Anima Creation skill since that skill gave him the highest boost in SP amount. Opening the details of the skill, he muttered, after getting the Anima Creation skill to level 6, the maximum amount of Animus I can make has been boosted to 35 and the amount of SP each Anima can hold has been boosted to 22. Sweet. Of course, the notification screens weren't over as there were a few more. These notification screens were expected by Oris as they had something to do with evolving. Spirit Energy Augmentation, Treader of Two Paths, and Life and Will Vessel Manipulation have all reached the max level. All of these skills have met the necessary requirements and are ready to evolve. Taking a bit of his time to look at the triangle hovering his body that showed the distance between him and the place he set a marker to, he noticed that there were only around 200 meters left. Since that was the case, Oris commanded, evolve all of the evolvable skills. Well, even if he evolved them all one by one, nothing would happen since he was sure all of these skills had a direct skill evolution path unlike the other skills he had. Ding! Ding! Spirit Energy Augmentation has been evolved to Spirit Energy Ascension. Treader of Two Paths has been evolved to Inheritor of Two Ideologies. Life and Will Vessel Manipulation has been evolved to High Vessel of Sentience. After removing those notification screens, he then formed 5 more floating Animus as he had to be prepared at all times, expanding his maximum SP by a small margin. He then took a glance at the floating triangle and saw that there was only 150 meters left. He then opened the details of the 3 skills while simultaneously casting Spirit Detection, Wind Variant, around his surroundings every once in a while. __ Spirit Energy Ascension, Level 1 of 10. Grade A, Mortal. The exchange of SP into power has reached its limits, yet the Spiritus still needs more power. In the end, the Spiritus found a way to exchange more SP into power by condensing it and releasing it at the crucial moment, allowing the tides to turn around at battles. Conversion rate, 1 SP-1% boost in all stats. Current limit, 100% boost in all stats. Spirit Ascension, skill can be used once limit has been reached, increasing the limit by 50% for 2 minutes, has a cooldown of 1 hour. __ Inheritor of Two Ideologies, Level 1 of 5. Grade B, Mortal. As a Spiritus, you tread the 2 paths of life and will. With this, you gain knowledge of both paths and know how to use them to your advantage, thus granting you more power. For every 10% of the life and will bar being filled, user gets a 2% boost in stats, maxing out at 20% at full bar. __ High Vessel of Sentience, Level 1 of 5. Grade B, Mortal. As a Spiritus, you tread the 2 paths of life and will, thus gaining knowledge on how to use both paths efficiently. During this process, you obtain a feeling that the 2 paths are lacking in their peak, thus deriving an expansion to their rumored peak. The maximum amount of life and will points that could be stored has been raised to 110. __ Just at the nick of time, Oris finished looking at the skill details and was able to focus at the path in front of him with the gap between him and the Tempest Ruin being around 50 meters. Oris couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief as he tried to remember the information that's needed for him to obtain the Blessing of the Tempest and Stick Regeneration skill. At this moment, when only 10 meters separated Oris from the Tempest Ruin, a large branch and a tree barred Oris' entry to the Tempest Ruin as a gust of wind blew towards Oris' direction. Oris, of course, noticed the two entities standing in front of him as he dodged the gust of wind before coming back to his previous position, which was in front of the two entities. Not knowing who they were, Oris asked the question, "Who are you?" A few minutes prior to Oris' current situation, a branch and a tree were hastily traveling towards the Tempest Ruin as they slightly hovered about the ground. The branch and the tree were none other than Harel and Lauren respectively. They were tasked by Aurelia to ask the Spiritas they saw to join the Tempest Branch Alliance. As they were still heading to their destination, Lauren, the tree, asked Harel, "Why do you think Aurelia wants that Spiritas thingy to join the Alliance? Does he want the guy for his weird magic? If so, we already have weird magic since you're here, Harel." Being entities of the S grade and X grade, they were able to classify themselves through the genders of male and female, which was a sign of becoming sentient. Harel, the one Lauren just mentioned for having weird magic, couldn't help but blurt, "Weird magic? Just because you don't understand higher level 1 magic doesn't mean it's weird. If it was really weird, then why would I cast Flight on both of us if it was a higher level 1 magic spell?" The way Harel spoke was calm and elegant, yet had hints of sadness between them. Lauren sensed Harel's sad expression and sent one of its roots to pat Harel on its body. "You know what? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I'll make it up to you by having fun with me later." From this statement alone, one could infer that Lauren was female and Harel was male. Harel, not losing sight of the task Aurelia gave them, then said, "I would love to, but let's focus on the matter at hand. We must make sure that this Spiritas thing should join our side no matter what it takes." Of course, Lauren agreed to Harel's statement. There was a time where a branch of the Alliance didn't fulfill Aurelia's mission. That branch wasn't heard of afterwards, with the rumors of it being absorbed by Aurelia sprouting within the Alliance. In the nick of time, Harel and Lauren landed 10 meters before the Tempest Ruin just as Oris was almost at the Tempest Ruin. Since Oris wasn't paying attention to his surroundings while checking his system, he wasn't able to perceive Harel and Lauren's landing, assuming that they were already there by the time they met. Harel looked at Oris before looking at Lauren, who nodded as a signal. Afterwards, Harel conjured a small magic circle that packed a punch as it sent a gust of wind to Oris. "High breeze," Harel chanted inwardly. Contrary to their expectations, Oris was able to dodge the skill and went back to his previous position as he looked at the two and asked, "Who are you?" At this moment, Lauren stepped forward and instantly exuded an aura that inspired fear into anyone and looked at Oris, who showed slight fear towards Lauren. Lauren then said in a mighty tone, "You don't have to know who we are, for we are here to be your masters. Join the Tempest Branch Alliance or die." Chapter 34. Join the Tempest Branch Alliance or die, Lauren said to Oris as an aura that instilled fear emanated from her tree body. Oris felt that the tree in front of him was incredibly strong. Not only that, the branch was also strong, considering the fact that it was able to shoot out a gust of wind towards him in a matter of an instant. Staying silent for a bit, he commanded the system to identify the both using species analysis, only to be shocked by their stats, levels, and HP and SP amount. Ding. __. Lauren, young tree, Energistus subferus. Existence level, inanimate, S. Level, 19 of 20. HP, 3,500 of 3,500. SP, 1250 of 1250. Stats. Toughness, 276. Thickness, 375. Root rigidity, 523. Skills. Uncheckable due to the skill, species analysis, being low level. __. Harel, branch grandius forminosus, high energistus. Existence level, inanimate, X. Level, 32 of 40. HP, 25,500 of 25,500. SP, 7,800 of 7,800. Stats. Toughness, 2213. Thickness, 2435. Spirit density, 3263. Skills. Middle high spell core, other skills are uncheckable due to the skill, species analysis, being low level. __. Oris didn't know what to say. The strongest enemy he has fought against was Exos, who had an attack stat of 130. That alone was enough to remove a quarter of his HP even with a grazing attack. Now with the attack stats of the two beings in front of him being over 500 and over 3,000 respectively, it wouldn't be weird for him to die under a single touch of their bodies. The Tempest Branch Alliance. As Oris was thinking of the possibilities on how they were able to gain that much stats when in comparison, the enemies he fought at their grade had less stats, this name came in all of a sudden. Alliances within ISE allowed players to have boosted stats that could easily crush players who decided to play solo. Most of the time, these solo players tend to avoid these players who have joined alliances not only because of that, but they also had a plethora of skills to their disposal. Of course, who wouldn't want to enter a place that allowed them to reign over players with their higher stats? That way of thinking resulted in almost every alliance being filled up to its limit with players. Who knew that Kurahana would also add dysfunction? Oris couldn't help but mumble to himself. Composing his thoughts, he looked at the two beings and respectfully said, "No." "No?" This time, Harel was the one who spoke. With his calm and collected voice, it brought chills to Oris, who was only a grade, 2 grades below him. "May I ask you why you declined our offer?" "First off, it's because you two are forcing to enter an alliance that I don't even have an idea about, plus the way you look at me is just..." Oris explained the reasons why he declined the offer in a rational manner that had bits of his emotions added into it, only for a route that traveled at an insanely fast speed to nearly hit him, a sonic boom forming not long after. Oris froze in place and looked at the origin of the route. It came from Lauren, who looked at Oris as if he should thank the both of them for the chance of entering a prestigious alliance. She then spat out coldly, "You know what? Since he dares to be cocky, let's just kill him." Without hesitation, Lauren's leaves started to glow a faint green as a tornado manifested above her body. Harel looked at this and looked back at Oris as he sighed. He then said to Oris, "I don't know what you did to her, but I can't control it. Think of it as a test of sorts." Of course, Harel didn't bother to join the fight as he knew that he could easily Oris with just a single lower level 0 spell. Instead, he casted a barrier around the two as he made sure to check on Oris every once in a while, because he knew Aurelia's true intentions. After a few seconds, the tornado hovering above Lauren's body grew to a size that could deal large amounts of damage along its path. Once it reached a certain point, Lauren shot the tornado towards Oris as she shouted, "Tornado of Fear." As she shot the tornado out, cackling sounds could be heard coming from the tornado all of a sudden. Once Oris heard this sound, a few notification screens appeared in front of his field of vision. Ding! You have been inflicted with the fear debuff for 2 seconds. System estimates that getting hit by this skill will result in the user dying. Well, no shit. Oris couldn't help but curse as the tornado gradually got closer to his body at a fast speed. Since the gap between them was only around 10 meters, it was a given that this tornado would hit him before the fear debuff was dispelled. The fear debuff made enemies freeze up in place. In other words, it was a debuff that allowed the person attacking the enemy to bombard multiple amounts of skills within the specified amount of time. What should I do? Oris was trying to think of ways of dodging the tornado, but he realized that he had no skill that allowed him to remove debuffs on his body. With that, he couldn't help but sigh as he accepted his fate of dying under the hit of the tornado. Only for a spark to flash in his mind as he remembered a skill that might not remove the debuffs on his body, but it would allow him to solve the case of dying under the tornado. Unyielding Spiritus. Whoosh! At the exact instant the tornado collided with Oris' body was instantly covered with a silver light as the tornado was completely absorbed by the silver light, as if it wasn't there in the place. Ding! You have received 1 HP damage from Lauren. What? Lauren, who knew the terrifying prowess that tornado had, was shocked to see that it didn't even deal any damage to Oris at all. She wasted around 500 SP in order to form the tornado, but it ended up dissipating into thin air? What kind of joke is this? Harel, on the other hand, was surprised to see the skill that Oris activated. At that point, Harel understood why Aurelia wanted the Spiritas in front of him to join their alliance. Since he was also an X-grade being that had an intelligence nearly comparable to a human, he had a hunch as to what Aurelia's plans were. Now I wonder. Harel mumbled to himself. Will this Spiritus fight back? Holy shit, Oris couldn't believe it. He knew what the skill could do, but he didn't know that it was this overpowered. __. Unyielding Spiritus, level 1 of 3. Grade C, mortal. As a Spiritus who treads both the paths of life and will, you do not succumb to the temptations of both, but instead forge your own path. All damage taken is reduced to 1 for 3 seconds. Cooldown, 12 hours. __. Looking at the two beings' faces of shock, Oris couldn't help but laugh in a grim manner as he said, since you've attacked me, it's time to return the favor. Spirit Energy Ascension. At the instant he activated the skill, his SP was drained furiously as the 18 SP recovery animus surrounding him madly regenerated the lost SP, the silver flame surrounding his body taking a corporeal form. Ding. Ding. Spirit Energy Ascension has leveled up. Spirit Energy Ascension has leveled up. As the skill leveled up twice, the height of the silver flame rose up as an aura of terror exuded from Oris' body. Lauren and Harel looked at this, with Lauren furious but curious to find out what Oris was doing. Not long after, a notification screen appeared in front of Oris' field of vision. Ding! The exchange of SP into power has reached its limit, boosting the user's power by 110%. Of course, this was not over. Spirit Ascension. Bang! After activating this skill, a loud explosion resounded out of Oris' body as the silver flame surrounding him turned black. At this moment, being fueled with a lot of SP, the black flame surrounding Oris grew stronger as it became more and more corporeal. The Spirit Ascension skill increased the stat boost limit by 50%, thus allowing him to have a stat boost limit of 165%. During this time, Oris also activated Tempest Burst, which doubled movement speed, attack speed, and of course, attack power. Ding! It didn't take long for the black flame to finish engulfing SP, boosting Oris' stats by 165%. Oris took this chance to look at Lauren as a spirit spear made out of anima hovered above his body while being covered in black flames and tempestuous winds. You know what? Since you're so prideful to not even let me explain the reasons why I don't want to join your alliance, just let this be the reason why I don't want to join. The spirit spear's ferocity grew in size as an incredibly sharp aura surrounded the spear. Looking at his SP bar refilling back to its maximum amount, he then shot the spear towards Lauren as he shouted, Spirit Spear, Acceptance. Lauren thought that the aura exuded by the spear was extremely terrifying, but since it came from an A-grade inanimate, she thought it would only reduce her HP by around 200 at moment, making her relax as she laughed. As for Harel, he knew the power behind the spear as he kept silent, mumbling inwardly, let's just say this is a wake-up call for her. Ha ha ha. How much damage could that puny spear do? Ugh. Continuing to laugh, Lauren belittled the spear shot out by Oris, only for a large chunk of her HP bar to be removed. Ding! Oris has dealt 3,338 HP damage to Lauren. Chapter 35. Tempest Cliff, the hall where the members of the Tempest Branch Alliance stayed. Currently, only Aurelia was left inside the hall, with the other members heading towards the other parts of the Tempest Cliff as they focused on getting stronger and perhaps getting enough experience to evolve to a higher grade. In the center of the hall, an image of a tree fighting against a glowing stick was shown, which only Aurelia at the moment could only see. Aurelia looked at this and had a serious expression on its non-existent face as it saw Lauren, the tree, shoot out a tornado towards the glowing stick, which was Oris. Ha! Aurelia couldn't help but sigh. It knew that this was going to happen as it happened to know Lauren's temper, which was stupendously short for a tree that was usually called a patient being. I hope the Spiritus doesn't die from this eh? Within the image, the tornado collided with the glowing stick, only for the glowing stick's body to absorb the whole attack like it was nothing. Aurelia's eyes gleamed and looked at the glowing stick as if it was a treasure. If we have this stick in the Alliance, we truly might have the chance to fight against an animate. Contrary to what the other sentient branches and trees know, animates, in this case humans, were not easy to kill. Aurelia knew this for a fact since it tried to fight against an unguarded one before, only to end up badly injured. With a skill like that negates massive amounts of damage, I truly might be able to achieve the last requirement I need before evolving. Bang! While mumbling to itself, a ear-splitting sound resounded out of the image, forcing Aurelia to snap back to reality and watch as it realized that the glowing stick retaliated. This stick is only going to deal around 500 damage at most, Aurelia hypothesized. It knew that A-grade inanimates were limited in their ability to deal massive amounts of damage, and that was partly due to their small stats. Continuing to look at the image, the retaliation of the stick critically injured the tree, reducing 3/4 of the tree's HP in an instant. What? Aurelia couldn't believe what it was seeing. An A-grade inanimate was able to critically injure a tree from an alliance without being part of another alliance? It was truly unheard of for Aurelia. At these moments of disbelief, a voice resounded throughout the hall as if it was talking to Aurelia. This Spiritus seems to be stronger than we thought. Aurelia was slightly startled, but regained its composure in an instant when it realized where the voice came from. Aurel, what do you think of the Spiritus? Aurelia asked. It's unlike any other Spiritus I've seen, and the past 2 Spiritus I've seen were only invincible in the A-grade. To think that we have ourselves an A-grade Spiritus that could easily kill an S-grade, this stick might just be a blessing for us if it joins. Aurel was the branch beside Lauren, and he was the one who allowed Aurelia to watch the fight between Oris and Lauren. Of course, Aurel meeting Oris face-to-face would allow him to examine Oris at a better angle rather than from an image. Indeed, Aurelia agreed with Aurel's statement. As it continued to look at the Spiritus' body, it could notice hints of divinity within, but it seemed that Aurel nor Lauren could see it. While watching, it said to Aurel, I think you should persuade it to join because I think it's been blessed by the... Before finishing its statement, Lauren was dumbfounded at the amount of damage she received and snapped as she started to consume all of her life points and even part of her SP in order to boost her power. Oh shit, Aurelia couldn't help but curse. In an instant, it gradually floated in midair as it shouted before leaving, Aurel, make sure that the Spiritus is protected. And if necessary, kill Lauren. Outside the Tempest ruin. Ah! How dare you defile my body? Lauren, who was critically injured in one hit thanks to Aura's Spirit Spear, snapped under her stupendously short temper and didn't hesitate to exchange all of her hard-earned life points and even part of her SP as a corporeal yellow aura covered her body, intensifying the aura of fear that surrounded her. Of course, Oris wouldn't want the same thing to happen, hence he hurriedly moved far away from Lauren, who was still in the process of powering up, with haste thanks to the Tempest Burst skill. Damn, Oris couldn't help but say. How the hell did I meet a lunatic? Hello there. A voice suddenly resounded inside Oris' mind, who was already badly shaken up thanks to the psychotic actions the tree did just because he didn't enter their alliance. Who? Of course, Oris didn't know who was talking, hence he looked around and noticed the branch that was beside the tree that attacked him. As far as he knew, the branch didn't move from its position even after the tree went out of control. Calming down, he asked, Who are you? And why do you want me to join your alliance? First off, I'm Aurel, an X-grade inanimate with the High Energistus class from the Tempest Branch Alliance. Compared to Lauren, Aurel was more dignified and gentlemanly, allowing him to win over many branches and trees in this manner. As for why, our leader will tell you all of that since she's already heading our way. Your leader? Oris couldn't believe it. If the members of the Alliance were already monstrous in terms of stats and attack power, how more monstrous could the leader be? As Lauren started to conjure a ball of energy that radiated a yellow glow, Aurel couldn't help but let out a sigh, which was heard by Oris thanks to their connection. I'm sorry about this. I really didn't want Lauren to come here because of her extremely short temper, but our leader told us to come so. Well. Oris looked at the crazed tree and said to Aurel in sympathy, I think I can understand what you're going through. Anyways, I'm Oris. Once I meet your leader, I might just join your alliance. Hearing Oris reply, Aurel instantly became ecstatic before hastily concealing his emotions. Clearing his throat, he then said to Oris, Well, Oris, the first thing we should do for now is remove Lauren from her crazed state. Can you help me with that? I'll support you. Oris was surprised. An X-grade inanimate, supporting him from the sidelines. It might just be a dream come true. Looking at the energy ball above Lauren that was growing larger and larger, Oris nodded as he said, "All right then." With the Tempest Burst skill now in cooldown, he wouldn't be able to move twice as fast anymore nor hit twice as hard anymore, which meant that he would deal half the damage from before. Oris didn't mind that and closed his eyes as he changed all of his recovery onimus to HP recovering onimus. High spirit channeling. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, the SP bar that stored over 350 points was easily filled thanks to exchanging HP into SP, thanks to his experiments. Oris knew that exchanging HP into SP was faster than relying on his innate SP recovery, even if it was boosted by recovery onimus. Ding. Ding. High spirit channeling has leveled up twice. Not minding the notification screen, Oris hurriedly conjured a spirit spear and threw it at Lauren. Although it wasn't the acceptance form that dealt as much damage as possible, it was a form that would help him out at the moment. Spirit Spear. Depression. Bang. Without difficulty, the Spirit Spear collided with Lauren's body, easily covering Lauren with an aura where she felt heavy and powerless. Ding. Oris has dealt 695 HP damage to Lauren. The slow debuff has been inflicted on Lauren. The attack down debuff has been inflicted on Lauren. Although Tempest Burst wasn't activated, he was still able to deal hundreds of damage to a stick, easily two-shotting any normal S-grade stick. But that wasn't the specialty of the Depression form. Its specialty was to inflict a movement speed down and attack down debuff on the enemy. Of course, being hit with another Spirit Spear, Lauren's HP was now around the low 1000s, thus angering her even more. Continuing to scream in a hoarse voice, the energy ball above her body that radiated a yellow glow now gradually turned red as strands of red light from Lauren's body started to assimilate with the ball. What the? Harrell couldn't believe it. Looking at Lauren, he shouted, "Have you gone out of your mind? Using your HP to increase the power of your energy ball? Will this do anything beneficial?" Ha 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 ha. Yes. Yes, it will. It'll wipe the stick's existence to ashes. With her mind in an erratic state, Lauren wasn't able to think rationally as she fired the energy ball towards Oris. Crap. Harrell then looked at Oris and shouted, "Stay where you are. I'll cast a barrier around you." Oris followed what Harrell said and looked at Harrell as he exquisitely manipulated his SP towards Oris and easily conjured a strong defensive barrier around him. Fortress Barrier. At this point, Harrell couldn't help but look at Lauren's body and muttered, "Just end this already." And at that moment, whoosh! A furious gust of wind instantly bisected the red energy ball into two, removing the destructive power it had as it continued towards Lauren's body. Even though she was still in her crazed state, Lauren instantly knew where the furious gust of wind came from, hastily returning back to her normal state as she pleaded, "No, don't. I'm still a valuable asset to your alliance." And then, a firm and strict feminine voice resounded out as the furious gust of wind bisected Lauren's body into two. "You've gotten my members into danger multiple times already. Just die." Shot. In an instant, Lauren's body, which was considered extremely powerful from Oris standards, was easily cut into two as a large branch landed in front of Oris, who was still inside a defensive barrier. This branch had red engravings all over its body as it looked at Oris. Seeing the destructive prowess of the branch, Oris couldn't help but stutter as he asked, "WW who or why you?" "Me?" Seeing that the branch she wanted to recruit was behind her, she turned and looked at Oris before saying, "I'm Aurelia." Chapter 36. Oris looked at Aurelia for a bit as he couldn't comprehend what happened just a few seconds ago. A furious gust of wind easily negating the red energy ball Lauren threw and still have enough power to cut Lauren's body into two? With his curiosity at its max, Oris couldn't help himself from identifying Aurelia. Ding. __. Aurelia, Branch Grandius Forminosus, Blood Bell Hazard. Existence level, inanimate, X. Level, 40 of 40, max. HP, 15,800 of 15,800. MP, 5,700 of 5,700. Stats: Toughness 3452, Thickness 3825, Blood Energy 6132. Skills: Uncheckable due to the skill, Species Analysis, being low level. In an instant, he became dumbfounded at Horelia's stats. Although Horelia had lower HP and SP when compared to Horel, who was a high Energistus, in other words, a high mage, it was already surprising for Horelia to have that much health already. Why? It's because she's a Bell Hazard. And not only that, a Blood Bell Hazard, which means she has special abilities other than having the abilities of a Berserker. Of course, the fact that her attack power being about 3,000 points higher than Horel also shocked him to the core. He concluded that this was the reason why she could cleave Lauren into two so easily, despite Oris being an A grade having difficulties to kill her. Then again, I'm already an anomaly. Oris couldn't help but laugh at himself as he looked at Horel. Horel was looking at Horelia with a gaze filled with respect and awe. Well, that's what he was feeling thanks to their souls being incredibly strong. Still within the defensive barrier, Oris then asked Horel, is this Horelia, the leader of your alliance? Taking another glance at her body, Oris noticed that the red engravings wriggled around as she emitted a somewhat tense and suffocating aura, making Oris conclude that she was a strict person. Horel, on the other hand, did not notice this and affirmed Oris' question by saying, indeed, she is the leader of the alliance. She has made multiple branches and trees follow her up to this day, where we could be considered a strong power within the Tempest Cliff. From this statement, Oris inferred a few things from Horel's words and asked, so you're telling me that your alliance is not the sole strong power within this place? At this moment, Horelia noticed that she was being ignored by the two men, forcing her to say, Horel, remove the barrier around Oris. Horel, who didn't know what was going to happen, still followed her commands, dissolving the barrier that protected Oris. Oris panicked in an instant as he could sense that Horelia's aura intensified as she rolled closer and closer to him. Please don't come closer. Please. Any normal person would panic once they see someone or something that is out of their league trying to get back at them. So it wasn't unusual for Oris to be scared in front of Horelia, whose aura could already kill him if need be. Horel looked at this situation from the side and couldn't help but say words of encouragement to Oris. Of course, Oris couldn't hear Horel's words as he was fully enveloped by Horelia's aura, making him look at Horelia as some sort of deity. But this feeling changed once Horelia removed her aura around Oris and let out a sigh. I didn't have to do this, but I needed to get your attention. My attention? Oris was somewhat confused for a bit before remembering that he ignored Horelia, talking to Horel instead. Knowing his mistakes, he hurriedly apologized. I'm sorry for ignoring you. I was asking things about you and the Alliance and the rumored powers within the Tempest Cliff, although you somewhat cut me off on the last part. Horelia then looked at Horel and asked, is that true? Horel nodded as he replied, indeed. I was going to tell our friend Oris here about the situation within the Tempest Cliff, and I hoped that would persuade him to enter the Alliance. Of course, this question and answer portion happened through connecting their SP rather than speaking out loud from their souls. They didn't want to let Oris hear their conversation. Seeing that she misunderstood the situation, she hurriedly apologized as well before saying, so, as you've heard from Horel, I'm the leader of the Tempest Branch Alliance. Name's Horelia. After the aura around Horelia disappeared, Oris felt that Horelia was approachable and friendly. Since Horelia was being kind to him, he reciprocated the gesture. Nice to meet you, I'm Oris. I've heard from Horel that you want me to join your Tempest Branch Alliance? Why is that? Hearing that Oris wanted to know the reasons for him joining the Alliance, Horelia didn't hesitate to reply in full honesty even though they've only met for the first time. It's like this. Well, I'll continue from where Horel left, which is the powers inside the Tempest Cliff. The first strong power in this Tempest Cliff is, of course, our Tempest Branch Alliance, being filled with S-grade and X-grade branches and trees, fighting for the sole cause of defeating one of the other powers within the Tempest Cliff. The next two powers are also alliances, albeit somewhat weaker than us. The two alliances, including ours, have decided to form a peace treaty to not harm each other's members and alliances, only focusing on the sole remaining power within the Tempest Cliff. And that is? Oris asked, since he felt that this last power must be extremely strong to force the three alliances to create a peace treaty. Actually, this power isn't an alliance, but instead an individual, Aurelia replied. This individual has already broken to the animate level and gained sentience, allowing it to crush its branches and trees like nothing. The form this individual took was a wolf. Wolf? Oris paused for a second, not believing what Aurelia said. Shouldn't animates be sentient and intelligent like humans? Aurelia did not know the answer to that as well, replying, I've been in this world for around 3 years, and I've gained a soul after 1 more year, learning tons of information for 2 more months. But after all of my learning, I still don't know what that individual is thinking. Oris looked at Aurelia for a bit and sensed a feeling of helplessness exuding from her body, seeing that she had no idea as to why that individual chose to become a wolf rather than a human. Of course, being in this world for only a few weeks, even with his early game memories unsealed, he didn't know why the individual chose that path. He did know that the choice to become an animal as an animate existed, but he didn't see advantages in it. And you want me to join the alliance too? After Aurelia explained the 4 powers of the Tempest Cliff, Oris got back to the main topic, which was the reason for Aurelia inviting him to join the alliance. I've seen your capabilities, and I feel like once you've evolved to S grade, you will exceed Harel's capabilities as a mage, being a powerful asset for our fight against the wolf, Aurelia explained from a logical perspective. Also, you have that heaven-defying skill where you nullify any damage you take, and that would also help out a lot. Although Aurelia didn't directly answer Oris' question, Oris was able to get the gist as he asked, so what you're saying is, you want me to join the alliance for my skills and capabilities? Aurelia didn't disagree with the idea as she said, well, that's not wrong. Okay then, I'll join your alliance. Oris agreed to Aurelia's offer since he realized that Lauren's case was just a unique case. Talking to her for a bit, he realized that the alliance was quite a suitable place for him. Hearing his reply, Aurelia became ecstatic as she said, sweet. Let's go back to the main hall and... Only to be cut off by Oris. But on one condition. Aurelia lightly coughed for a bit as she noticed that Oris was not done talking. She then asked, what's your condition? Let me into the Tempest Ruin, Oris replied. I need to grab something from there before I can join your alliance. If you don't mind, can I ask what that thing might be? All of a sudden, Harel asked from the side. Since Oris knew that these 2 people were going to become his compatriots for a while, he honestly replied to Harel's question. Well, it's not a thing, but things. I have to get 2 skills from the Tempest Ruin, one being a skill that allows me to move faster, and the other one being a skill that allows me to heal HP. Did you just say, healing? Harel and Aurelia asked at the same time. The fact that having a healing skill would allow them to do more things without any fear. So far, within their alliance, only one member of theirs had a healing skill, but it had a long cooldown that lasted hours. At that instant, Aurelia then said to Harel, broadcast to all of the members that I'll be gone for a while. The reason being I have to do something important. Harel got the hint hidden between Aurelia's words and nodded as he sent out multiple strands of SP out to the sky before respectfully saying farewell to both Aurelia and Oris, basically leaving the 2 of them alone. Oris instantly felt like something was off after Harel left in a sort of monotonous manner. Facing Aurelia, he asked, since Harel left, aren't you going to leave as well? Me? Why would I leave? Aurelia gave off a cheery aura as she replied. Is it wrong for me to join you on your way to Tempest Ruin? You don't have any objections to that, right? Chapter 37. You don't have any objections to that, right? Well, the place I'm going to is extremely dangerous even for X-grade inanimates. Not to mention, there's a special method needed to enter the place where the skills are. Can't you just teach me the method and let me go with you? There are tons of traps along the way that could easily reduce our HP to 0, plus there are a lot of S-grade and X-grade beings along the way as well. I want to avoid confronting any of them. If I'm there, wouldn't you get to the place faster since I can kill them in one shot? Also, you're a mage. Can't you use long-distance skills to trigger the traps from far away? Well, sure we can do that, but the skills I'm getting are only suitable for a specific species, and I think you won't be able to get it. Who cares? If I can't learn it, then I'll just get another member of our alliance to learn the skill, simple as that. But Oris continued to think up of reasons to refrain Aurelia from joining him on his way to the Tempest Ruin, only to be defeated by Aurelia's quick wits and logical answers. With a sigh, he started to roll towards the Tempest Ruin and said, "Fine, you can come." The cheery aura that Aurelia exuded instantly became more vibrant as she said in joy, "Yay! I can go on an adventure." Seeing that Oris was already heading towards the Tempest Ruin, Aurelia didn't dilly-dally any further and activated her movement skill. A gust of wind started to circulate around her body before getting enough oomph to support her body, letting her body hover a few decimeters above the ground. Of course, with Oris having the soul perception eye skill acting as his eyes, he was able to see Aurelia floating above the ground, allowing her to move at a speed that was superbly higher than Oris, but in consideration to Oris' movement speed, she slowed down and maintained the same pace as Oris, wanting to talk with him as they traversed the Tempest Ruin. "Say, Oris, how did you know that there were skills hidden within the Tempest Ruin?" Being the leader of the Tempest Branch Alliance that has its headquarters in the Tempest Cliff, it's impossible for me to not know anything about every nook and cranny of the Tempest Cliff, but to think that there's such a thing inside the cliff appalls me. It was a given that Oris couldn't talk about him being reincarnated as a stick, having the knowledge of his past life that was useful in his current life since he played a game that was based in the same world in his current life. Letting out a stifled chuckle, he replied, "Well, Miss Aurelia, I can't tell you how I know. If I did do that, then I wouldn't have let you come join me." Seeing that Oris wanted to hide his secrets, Aurelia didn't dig any deeper as she heard Oris' way of calling her. "Since we're going to be members of the Alliance after this, well, we're already members, so just call me Aurelia." Oris didn't deny Aurelia's offer as he knew that she had a friendly kind of personality. "If you insist, Aurelia. Anyways, what's the Alliance like? What's the hierarchy of power within it?" Since he was going to join Aurelia's alliance, it didn't hurt to ask for information, right? "Well, although our alliance is the strongest within the Tempest Cliff, we don't really have that much rules, allowing members to do what they want as long as it doesn't hurt the other members," Aurelia replied after a bit of pondering. She then continued afterwards, "As for the hierarchy of power, I'm the leader since I'm the strongest out of all the members. The next level of power below me goes to the 7 other X-grade beings within the alliance. I personally call them the Pillars since they pretty much molded the alliance into what it is. Below that are the strong S-grade beings. I call them executives because they can help out at crucial times. The last level of power are the weak S-grades, just being normal members of the alliance. All in all, we number at around 69 members, well, 70 since you've joined. To be honest, you're an exception to the hierarchy since you've surpassed the strength of normal members, almost equal to the strength of the executives. I don't know where to put you in, to be honest." "I don't really care about position," Oris replied. "I just want to become stronger, and an alliance is the easiest way for me to do so." Aurelia couldn't help but have a good impression of Oris. Oris was just like her, pursuing to become the strongest. After a while, Aurelia then asked, "Oris, I want to ask something." Oris hemmed at Aurelia's question while looking at the path in front of them. They have already traversed over 300 meters inside the Tempest Ruin. They needed to cross around 1,500 more meters to be at the place where the skills would be at. "What is it?" "I was just wondering, are you perhaps the same as me? Being blessed by the G." Aurelia's question was cut short as the two of them both felt a menacing aura from a few meters in front of them. Looking ahead, Oris couldn't help but say, "We've got company." Tempest Cliff, outside the boundary of the Tempest Ruin. A muscular man with multiple scars on his face was currently looking at a crystal that had a red inside it blink every once in a while. This man was Arden, the one who Dane hired to capture Oris. Beside him was a solemn-looking woman who had a magic staff that was taller than her, being almost the same height as Arden. Nonetheless, she looked at the Tempest Ruin in front of her as if its secrets were already exposed by her. This woman was Mira, the one Dane asked to come with Arden. "So this is why Dane told me he was going to pay me 5,000 gold coins if I successfully captured that thingy. It was actually within the Tempest Cliff. Even I wouldn't go here unless I had a reason," Arden muttered as he continued to pinpoint the direction of the thing he needed to capture. Well, we better capture it as fast as possible, a soft yet firm voice came from the side. It was Myra's. Being a mage herself, she knew why Dane would pay 5,000 gold to capture Espiritas. Although it was a stick of legends. Many magic items, when crafted using Espiritas as a main material, would suddenly be more effective than any other magic item out there. Alright, I've tracked the location of the thingy, Arden said after a while to Mira. Since we finally have a rough direction to follow, cast Fly and a movement speed boosting spell to let us traverse the ruins faster and hopefully get that thingy before it escapes. Mira looked at Arden and couldn't help but say, you better give me 60% of the pay you get. Casting magic is extremely hard. Tapping the magic staff she held on the ground, she started to chant as the mana in the surroundings started to cover their bodies. First circle. Holos Missilis Levitas. Weaning. Not long after, their bodies started to float in midair as the fly spell was successfully casted. After that, Mira casted a spell that was more complex compared to the fly spell. In exchange, the efficacy of the spell in tandem with the fly spell would allow them to traverse hundreds of meters within a few minutes. Third circle. Holos Supris Vitalis Grandis. Gravitas Supris Vitalis Les. Espers Supris Vitus. Child of the Wind. Whoosh! As if they were the masters of their surroundings, they had the feeling that they could traverse thousands of meters within seconds. Of course, that was just an illusion. With both spells activated, Mira looked at Arden and said, let's go. The movement speed boosting effect will only last for 2 minutes at most. Nodding his head, Arden looked at the ruins in front of him and started to fly inside, with Mira following from behind. Inside Kurahana's space. Kurahana looked at the orb in front of her and noticed that the image shown on the orb did not only have Oris in it, for another stick was beside him. With her divine powers, she was able to sense the stick's affiliation with Oris. Not only that, she also sensed something special from the stick. Ho, a friend for Oris. How great. Wait, I can sense a trace of divinity from that stick. Has a god also reincarnated a soul into a stick and sent it to the same world? Seeing that another god has discovered her plans, Kurahana instantly showed her aggressive side as a strong killing intent suffused into the surroundings, yet there was no one around her to truly feel the terror of her killing intent. After a while, she perceived something within the orb that was not obvious, but it could change Aura's fate in the future. Calming herself down, she thought of how this fate would play out, predicting the path Oris would take in the future. She then laughed not long afterwards, looking at the orb with interest. I see. If that's the case, then I don't have to use him as a catalyst anymore. I just need the mortals of that world to use him as a weapon material and let him evolve over time. Chapter 38. Tempest Cliff. Looks like we've got some company, Oris said in a soft voice, easily noticing the menacing aura exuded by a being only a few meters away from them. With the variations of the terrain in terms of height every once in a while along Oris and Aurelia's path, fortunately, the being couldn't see them. It was also fortunate that they were able to see the enemy as it was lower than them. Identify. Using the chance they had, Oris commanded the system to identify the entity in front of them. In an instant, a screen appeared in front of Oris' field of vision, shocking him in an instant as he couldn't help but mutter, "Do I have bad luck or insanely good luck?" Ding. __. John, Branch Siphonus Spherus, Special. Existence level, inanimate, X. Level, 31 of 40. HP, 9,200 of 9,200. SP, 3150 of 3,800. Stats. Immunity, 1683. Mental Fortitude, 2215. Fear Intent, 1821. Skills. Fear Aura, Third Seal. Other skills are uncheckable due to the skill, species analysis, being low level. __. Holy shit, Oris couldn't help but curse at the being in front of them. Out of all the possible grades they could meet, it was an X-grade being. Not only that, it was even a special type of being that didn't follow the Branch Formosus path nor the sapling path. Hey Oris, I'd suggest you support me from the side on this one. This being gives me the creeps. Aurelia couldn't help but shiver inwardly as she could feel the aura emanating from the being. Since Oris knew Aurelia's class, he knew what Aurelia was going to do. While she was still by his side, he hurriedly commanded the system to identify the skill he got from John through the species analysis skill. Ding. __. Fear Aura, third seal. Grade S, mortal. As a being that gains power by siphoning fear out of the enemies it meets, it gained proficiency in controlling this amassed fear, creating a domain around the being where its properties are boosted. In exchange, a part of its SP is used up every once in a while. This aura has formed its third layer already, significantly boosting the boost the being gets. Boosts the being's stats by 100%. Gives the SP depletion debuff to the being. __. With him gaining knowledge on the enemy, Oris gained more confidence in his words as he said to Aurelia, "Aurelia, once you get covered by the aura, make sure to always stay on guard. Although it looks weak, it packs a strong punch." Taking his words into consideration, Aurelia nodded as she gradually floated up in the air, heading towards the being that exuded the aura. Not long after, a red aura that contained intense bloodlust started to cover Aurelia, gaining the being's attention. As for Oris, he continued to roll a bit more forwards, exchanging his SP for power as a silver flame started to cover his body while a magic circle was conjured inside his spell core. With his attention focused on the being, he muttered, "Let's see how it goes." The being that suffused a menacing and stifling aura instantly noticed an aura that didn't lose out to his from the skies. This being's name was John. It was the same being that Oris identified. John looked at the body of the branch from the skies and noticed the red engravings wriggling all over its body. At first, he didn't know what they were, but after a while, he grimly laughed as he started to use his SP to prepare a skill. "I see, this branch is critically injured. I don't mind gifts at all. I'll put it to good use." With the name of the skill shouted in his mind, a large cluster of the intangible energy around him suddenly gathered and formed a half-corporeal hand as it exuded a ghastly glow. Not long after, miserable shrieks could be heard coming from the hand as it shot out towards Aurelia. Noticing the hand coming out to get her, Aurelia let out a stifled snort as the red aura around her became more and more corporeal. Not long after, the red engravings all over her body converged towards one point as a crimson red tendril shot out of her body from the engravings, colliding with the half-corporeal hand. "Ha ha ha. You dare face my impenetrable gassed hand with a measly tendril? You must be Dree." In the midst of John's arrogant remarks, the crimson red tendril suddenly expanded to the hand size and in one fell swoop, engulfed it. Rather than continuing his remarks, he swallowed the words he was about to say, slightly looking at the branch floating in front of him with fear. Blood Art, Siphon. That was the name of the skill that Aurelia used. It was similar to Oris, 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear, that had 5 forms. The Siphon form allowed the crimson red tendril to engulf the skill of the enemy, which was a hand. Now, what would she do with it? Blood Art. Consume. The crimson red tendril that expanded to engulf the hand in one go suddenly shrunk in size as the hand engulfed also shrunk as well as it was forcefully pressed into a tight space. Not long after that, the hand lost its rigidity, turning into pure energy which was absorbed by Aurelia. After a few seconds, a blood-red flame started to cover Aurelia's body. With the corporeal red aura and the blood flame surrounding her, it made Aurelia look like the goddess of blood. Oris looked at Aurelia from afar with shock. From how Aurelia handled it, it seemed that she didn't need his help at all. With him getting to that conclusion, he deactivated the Spirit Energy Ascension skill and watched the fight as a bystander. I guess I can also see a glimpse into the Blood Bellhazard class, a class that's beyond a normal Bellhazard. Warning. With the blood-red flame completely covering Aurelia's body, it was time for Aurelia to move on to the next step. She was the one going to attack. Blood Art, Coagulate. The crimson red tendril that sprouted out of the red engravings all over her body suddenly detached itself from her body, being covered by the corporeal red aura. After that, the blood-red flame that was a transformation of the energy that made John's energy into a usable energy for Aurelia was transferred into the tendril as it now exuded a sharpness and fierceness that didn't lose to anything sharp and fierce. Sensing the aura surrounding the red tendril, John looked at it and scoffed, just a facade to hide its measly attack power. Why would I become scared of that? A branch Siphonospherus was a special being that didn't tread the branch Forminosis path, but rather made a path for itself by harnessing the fear felt by enemies. With the cacophony of screams and wails within his aura, plus with his stats transformed into stats that suited his current personality, it wasn't unusual for John to get to this conclusion. As a being that spread fear, he didn't need to fear anyone at all. Of course, he didn't know that this was the real deal. Blood art. Sanguine burst. Bang! Like a flash of lightning, the red tendril that was boosted in strength instantly pierced through the aura surrounding John, and of course, through John's body as well. With just one tendril, all 9,200 of his HP was depleted in an instant, not even letting him say any words of regret. Whoosh! After dying, a plethora of red and green particles scattered all over the ground, which Aurelia grabbed without hesitation as she needed it to evolve anyways. Being dumbstruck at the attack power of that red tendril, Horus was at a loss for words when Aurelia came back to his side. The problem is gone. Let's continue, Aurelia said as she instantly noticed Horus' dumbstruck expression, well, his aura that showed intense disbelief. After a while, Horus was able to regain his senses as he looked at Aurelia. He made a mental note to not mess with Aurelia. Ever. With the threat in front of them gone, they continued to tread along the path that Horus remembered. Along the way, Horus couldn't forget the prowess behind the skill Aurelia showed. Thinking that it was because of the alliance, he then asked, "What level is your alliance at?" When guilds and games had levels, alliances and ISE had levels as well. Rather than unlocking new buildings or features, they just boosted one feature. That feature was a boost to the member's stats. HM? Level 7. Why? Aurelia let out a curious aura as she replied. Although she knew that whenever her alliance got stronger, she grew stronger as well, she didn't really know the basis behind it. Level 7, stats are boosted by 100% at A grade and S grade, while it's 200% for X grade. Horus couldn't help but mutter in disbelief as he knew that leveling an alliance was hard. Although the maximum level for alliances were 30, even before he reincarnated as a stick, the highest leveled alliance was only at 23. Seeing that Horus was engrossed in his thoughts, Aurelia thought back to the question she was going to ask Horus before they met John. At first, she hesitated since they only knew each other for like a few hours or so. But now, after fighting against John, she decided to ask one more time. She didn't know why she wanted to do it, she just had a feeling that it would be beneficial for her and the alliance. Hey Horus. Yes? Done being trapped inside his own little world, Horus snapped back to reality as he replied to Aurelia's call. Have you been blessed by the gods? What? Chapter 39. Have you been blessed by the gods? What? I said, have you been blessed by the gods? Yeah, I heard you the first time. What do you mean by it? Of course, Horus was blessed by a god, the goddess of reincarnation specifically. He wasn't stupid at all. It was one of his most hidden secrets, and how was Aurelia, a branch that had only been with Horus for a short while, able to know that he was blessed by a god? Sensing the confused aura surrounding Horus' body, it seemed that Horus in front of her did not know what being blessed by the gods meant. Feeling like a knowledgeable scholar, Aurelia then said, a being blessed by the gods is someone who has become a representative of the god, or perhaps, an indirect child of the god. This is attributed to how those blessed by the gods are able to grow strong that would allow them to defeat those stronger than them at a lower level, or perhaps even be undefeated amongst every being that fought them. Horus replied with a soft grunt hesitatingly. He really didn't want to tell Aurelia that he was blessed by the gods. At that moment, a spark of realization entered Horus' mind. If Aurelia asked him if he was blessed by the gods, then that meant she might be blessed by the gods as well. Testing if his hypothesis was correct, he then asked Aurelia, well, judging by what you said, then that must mean that you're blessed by the gods, Aurelia. Eh? Unsurprisingly, Aurelia went silent for a moment as she hesitated on what to answer. From this alone, it seemed that his hypothesis was correct. With this, Horus continued on to the next step, which was coercing her to say she was blessed even if it meant knowing he was blessed. Looking at Aurelia that was floating a few decimeters above the ground, Horus then said, you know what? Let's just say our answers at the same time. Answers? What answers? Aurelia easily forgot her question as she wanted to keep her secret as well. Oris then followed up with, being blessed by the gods. Whether we are blessed or not. Aurelia hesitated for a bit before giving off a helpless aura. Sure. Okay then. I'll count from 3. 3, 2, 1. Yes. Yes. Oh, as expected, Oris couldn't help but say after hearing Aurelia's answer. Aurelia, on the other hand, was surprised that Oris had the same fate as her, being blessed by the gods. Continuing to trudge on forward, she then asked, which god blessed you? Seeing that Aurelia was now open to this topic, Oris didn't hesitate to say it out loud. The goddess of reincarnation. You? The goddess of kinship, Aurelia replied with motivation. Why did the goddess of reincarnation choose you? Well, Oris hesitated once more. If he answered the question, she would be the first one to know his past. Deciding to play safe, he asked, you should tell me why the goddess of kinship chose you first. If you answer, then I'll tell. Hey? That's unfair. Aurelia couldn't help but complain that she became the one answering Oris' questions rather than the opposite. But it did seem that Oris didn't want to answer unless she answered first, so after letting out a sigh, she then explained, before the goddess of kinship chose me, I was any other stick out there, no life at all. Though there were circumstances and lucky encounters that made my body grow stronger, I still wasn't alive until the goddess found me. Even up to now, I still don't know why the goddess chose me. But she did say something to me once she chose me. What did she say? Oris asked. Make a family that you won't regret. In an instant, Oris' mind went into overdrive as he tried to find the hidden meaning within that statement. Although he knew that the goddess of kinship was focused more on trust and family, he couldn't help but think about it the other way. How do branches do it? Can we even do it at all? Without a doubt, Oris became flustered. He was only 16, a virgin that has only dreamt of doing it. Aurelia, on the other hand, was originally a stick that was granted a soul by the goddess of kinship, so she really didn't see any hidden meaning in the statement. How about you? Why did the goddess of reincarnation choose you? Not minding Oris' current emotion, she asked. Oris calmed down and noticed that she interpreted the statement as an innocent one, only he interpreted it in another way. Lightly coughing, he then explained his circumstances, making Aurelia the first one to know his secret. I haven't said this to anyone yet, so you'll be the first one to know of it. Can I trust you to keep it a secret? Oris started off with a statement that questioned whether Aurelia was trustable or not. I swear on my xylem and phloem that I would not spread this secret. Ever. Of course, Aurelia didn't disappoint by agreeing to keep it a secret. Letting out a short sigh of relief, Oris then started to tell his story. Before I was even in this state, I was a human from another world. In other words, I was already an animate being that was sentient and intelligent. Unknowingly, a bolt of lightning struck the place where I was living and pretty much burned my body into charred bits, with only my soul left. As I pondered on what I was going to do, a goddess happened to notice my soul and give me the greatest gift of a lifetime, that was, to live a second life. She gave me 2 choices, one was to live as a human again while the other was to live as a stick. It's quite obvious as to what I chose. I don't know why I chose it, but I don't regret it at all. I still feel like I should repay her somehow. Unknowingly, a melancholic yet happy aura was being exuded by Oris, letting Aurelia know what he felt. Aurelia then stopped floating and went closer to Oris, saying, I apologize for asking you why you were chosen. It feels like a sad story to me. Don't worry, it has already been a long time since that passed. Well, a long time for a stick at least. Oris did not mind telling her as it allowed them to get a bit closer to one another. Continuing to roll, he then asked, I would like to ask though, why did you pick the Blood Bellhazard class? Of course, after apologizing to Aurelia, she began to float once more. Hearing Oris' question, she answered, the goddess of kinship says that blood runs through the family. So why not pick a class that has something to do with blood? Although he didn't get it, Oris nodded his head and continued to roll onwards as they got closer and closer to the place within Oris' memories. While rolling, Oris decided to make use of this free time to raise his most important skill, his spell core. Watching Aurelia fight a while ago made him think that he should get stronger fast. A few hours pass and Oris and Aurelia were only around 200 meters away from the place within Oris' memories that held the two skills he needed. At this moment, Oris was conjuring a magic circle within the spell core before shooting a condensed ball of energy towards the sky before it bursted with an extremely luminous glow, looking like pure white fireworks. Ding! Oris instantly became ecstatic after hearing that notification sound as he knew that his hard work had finally paid off. Without dilly-dallying, he opened the notification screen and looked at it. Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant, has leveled up twice. Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant, has reached the max level. Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant, has met the necessary requirements and is ready to evolve. Seeing that Aurelia was still looking ahead at their path, Oris then commanded the system in his mind. Evolve, Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant. Chapter 40. Evolve, Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant. Ding! Not being a system that delayed anything anymore, the system instantly popped a screen in front of Oris' field of vision. Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant, has been evolved to Middle Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant. Seeing that the evolution was successful, Oris removed the screen in front of his field of vision and noticed that there was a small screen on the far right of his field of vision. He didn't know when it popped up, but he checked it anyway, only to be slightly surprised. Supreme Purity Spirita's SP Vessel has leveled up thrice. Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant, has leveled up twice. Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant, has reached the max level. Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant, has met the necessary requirements and is ready to evolve. For a bit, he was dumbfounded as to when these two skills leveled up, only to remember that these skills level up whenever SP is used. Continuing to roll, he commanded the system through his thoughts. Evolve, Condensed Spirit Energy Core, through the option of Purer Energy. Of course, he knew what the choices were for skills that were related to SP storage. It would always be purity, storage size, and recovery speed. Since he already chose the route to pursue the highest degree attainable for SP, he didn't hesitate to choose the same option for the Spirit Energy Core. Ding! Condensed Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant, has been evolved to Purified Spirit Energy Core, Wind Variant. With that taken care of, he then checked the details of the newly evolved spell core. The first thing that caught his eye was the increased amount of damage his skills would deal. Before he evolved it, that amount was 10%. After evolving it, it increased to 15%. The next thing that caught his eye were the 3 spells that were newly added to his spell repertoire. Well, a new spell thanks to the skill evolution and 2 spells that came from leveling his low spirit spell core to the max level. But only the former caught his eye as it was a shortcut to his dream for movement. Although it only lasted a short time, it still allowed to savor the feeling of being free. Thanks to the evolution of the Spirit Energy Core that halved the SP cost of all his skills and spells, Oris was able to conjure the magic circle for this spell at the cost of 100 SP, less than 1/3 of maximum SP amount. Whoosh! Aurelia, who was still looking in front of their path, suddenly heard a gust of wind blow just a few meters beside her and turned her field of vision around to face the direction of the sound, only to be shocked. Oris, whom she thought was only able to roll on the ground, was actually hovering. Although it was not at a level that could be considered true flying, it still allowed him to move at a speed unlike before. Oris looked at Aurelia and gave off a cheery aura as he said, "Looks like we can get to the place faster than usual." What? Aurelia was definitely confused. She didn't know if Oris was hiding tricks up his sleeve or something, but when she sensed the cheery aura exuded by him, he knew that it was sincere happiness rather than a sneering one. How? I just evolved my spell core and it gave me access to lower level 1 spells, greatly superior to higher level 0 spells if you ask me, Oris replied. Just a bit more and I can be on par with Harel in terms of spells. Haha. When Aurelia heard Oris answer, a memory of Harel flying around the hall of their alliance all of a sudden was imprinted in her mind. To her, who was not a mage, it was definitely exhilarating to finally evolve her movement skill to allow flight. I see. Aurelia didn't get angry at Oris since she knew that Oris worked hard to evolve his spell core to the stage where he could fly for a short moment. She then asked, is it similar to the hover skill Harel unlocked when he evolved his spell core? Continuing to savor the feeling of flight, Oris then said, well, it does have the word hover attached to it, but I'd say it's better. What do you mean by it being better? What is the spell's full name? Gale Hover. __. Gale Hover. One of the most basic lower level 1 spells learned by a mage, allowing them to move at higher speeds thanks to their bodies slightly floating above the ground, reducing friction. Only lasts for 5 minutes. Movement speed is boosted by 100% for the duration of the spell. Movement speed is further boosted by 50% due to reduced friction. SP cost, 100 SP. Cooldown, 10 minutes. __. After replying to Aurelia's question, Oris then looked ahead of them as he tried to remember the exact place of where the skills were located. After a few minutes of recollection, he then asked Aurelia to follow him as they flew through the air, arriving at the place not long after. Ha, if only Tempest Burst wasn't on cooldown. Here we are, the place where we could get the skills. Landing safely on a nearby flat ground, Oris looked at Aurelia and said this statement. This place? Aurelia didn't know what she would do. She wondered if she would laugh at his words or hit him hard enough to teach him a lesson. Why? The place in front of them was barren. Aurelia had this belief that a place with skills would most likely be inside an abandoned building or a secret temple, but there was none of that in front of them. Only unstable walls and piles of rubble could be seen. Are you serious, Oris? Aurelia looked at Oris, now with a gaze filled with slight distrust. Oris did not mind this and said, I am. Anyways, we aren't at the exact place yet, but I'll tell you something before we get there. Once we arrive at the place, make sure to chant these words to enter the place. I will only say it twice, so better listen well. Oris looked at Aurelia for a bit and exuded a serious aura, letting Aurelia know that he was not joking. Aurelia let out an affirmative aura afterwards, letting Oris know that she was listening. Here's the chant. Holos Missilis Maximus. Tetraholos in Hieras Singulis. I'll repeat, Holos Missilis Maximus. Tetraholos in Hieras Singulis. After repeating it twice, Aurelia felt that she was listening to gibberish that didn't make sense. Feeling that she was still being duped, she asked, what is this chant? Oris looked at Aurelia for a bit before continuing to roll at a certain direction. The entrance to the Tempest Inheritance. With mirror casting, fly, and Child of the Wind on her and Arden's body, they were able to traverse the 1.5-kilometer distance that separated them from the Spiritas within a couple of hours. Now you may ask, why did it take them a long time to traverse that distance while it could only be traversed within a few minutes? Well, the answer to that is the difficulty of traversing the ruin itself. The Tempest Ruin is located at the center of the Tempest Cliff, where the strongest and most tempestuous winds are located. Combined with the multiple amounts of tall yet unstable walls that could fall off with just a strong gust of wind, it would definitely take them a long while to traverse that distance, since not only were they flying against the wind, they also tried to dodge the walls. Not to mention, with their strong presences, beasts of the lower ranks jumped out at them as they wanted to eat the two of them, prompting them to retaliate and kill them off. Once they reached the place where the red dot last blinked, Arden couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief as he said, finally. We're at the place where that Spiritas is. Mira, could you use your detection skill and see if the Spiritas is here? Mira tilted her head for a bit in confusion and said, my detection skill only works on living, breathing beings. How could I detect a Spiritas that's basically non-living? You have the tracking crystal Dane gave you, right? Why don't you use that? Slapping his forehead, Arden rummaged through his pockets and fished out the crystal that he used outside the Tempest Ruin a while ago to check the Spiritas' whereabouts. At first, the red within the crystal furiously blinked at the place where they stood. Then, a few seconds later, it instantly vanished without a trace. Eh? Arden was shocked. Mira saw Arden's expression and hurriedly asked, what's wrong? TT, the Spiritas is gone. Chapter 41. Following Oris, Aurelia slightly hovered above the ground as she looked at the surroundings. She couldn't really see what was so unique about the place they were currently in. Remembering the chant that Oris said a while ago, she asked, "Does this chant really work?" Oris, who was now rolling since the Gale Hover spell was on cooldown, let out an affirmative aura as he replied, "It does." With the help of his memories from his previous life, he was able to remember a forum post about obtaining these skills within the Tempest Cliff, which he always used every time he made a new account for another class, allowing him to breeze through early game content without much difficulty. Of course, with him doing it multiple times, he knew the place like the back of his hand. "How are you so sure about that?" Aurelia couldn't help but suspect that Oris was just messing with her. But this notion was dispelled once more as he let out an aura that made Aurelia feel that Oris was slightly irritated at her questions. "You know, you can leave if you want to. You're the one who wanted to come with me, and I'm here giving you access to the place for free. If you don't want it, then just leave. I still have more skills to obtain afterwards." At this moment, Oris' true personality was revealed. A personality that was akin to talking to a wall that was extremely cold while letting out an aura of seriousness and terror every second. This was what Oris' aura was comparable to. Thinking about it, Aurelia knew that what he said was right. It was her that forced Oris to be beside her as he hunted skills, as she wanted to amass skills for the Alliance. Now that she was being skeptic at Oris' knowledge, she knew that she still had more to improve in terms of being an Alliance leader. Although distrust could happen every once in a while, being an Alliance meant that you had to trust a branch's or a tree's words, especially so if they're serious. After asking the previous question, Aurelia then went silent, allowing Oris to tread towards the entrance in peace, taking around 10 minutes to head towards the entrance of the Tempest Inheritance. Here we are. The entry point. Oris looked at the surroundings and noticed that it looked similar to the memories he had. A broken wall was to his right, while to his left, a somewhat unstable wall stood. In his front and back, only piles of rubble could be seen. As for the floor, a faded green magic circle could be seen. Although it was faded, it still made Oris appreciate the complexity of the magic circle, seeing how it almost touched the 4 things he noticed a while ago. A magic circle of the 3rd level. If it was specialized in the space element, it would already allow teleportation. As for this circle, it's focused on the wind element with a few hints of the space element, allowing it to become the entrance to the Tempest Inheritance. Oris couldn't help but mutter as he tried to jog his memories about the multiple magic spells that a mage could come across. Of course, he knew that the spells he could currently cast are only a small portion of the massive amounts of spells of different levels out there. Looking at Aurelia for a bit, Oris then started a conversation with her. "If you want to leave, then you are free to do so. If you still hold some doubts in what I say but don't want to leave, good for you. I'll be heading in first." Slowly rolling towards the center of the faded green magic circle, Oris fell into a state of solemnity as the chant appeared in his mind. With each word of the whole chant enunciated smoothly, a hazy green glow started to appear around the magic circle. Holos Missilis Maximus. Tetraholos in Hieras Singulis. Whoosh! With the green glow getting more and more intense, the light gradually engulfed Oris' body until... poof! Just like nothing happened, the faded green magic circle looked the same but with a small difference. Oris was gone from Aurelia's sights. Hey? It was actually true? Aurelia couldn't help but feel guilty after realizing that Oris was actually telling the truth. Slowly rolling towards the center of the magic circle, she muttered, "I should pay him back after this. Holos Missilis Maximus. Tetraholos in Hieras Singulis." Whoosh! And just like that, the 2 of them disappeared in the face of the world of Erudinia. Zoop! After a few seconds of pitch-black darkness, Oris was greeted by an extremely wide hall that had its ceiling covered in vines. As for the walls and the floor, it looked like it was made of polished green jade as a daft breeze blew within the hall. Looking at the hall that was familiar to him, Oris couldn't help but shout out inwardly, "Haha." To think that this world is extremely similar to Infinite Stick Evolution, that means I can use the knowledge I have from the game to its fullest. As he was basking in the excitement of realizing the benefits of his reincarnation, a disembodied voice resounded throughout the hall as it said, "To truly enter the Tempest Inheritance, you must have a skill related to the wind element. The more skills you have related to the wind element, the harder the trials are, but the rewards are far greater. Hearing this voice, Horus suddenly snapped back to reality as he stayed in his place for a short while as he felt a light beam scan his body. If it were to be compared to something, it would be similar to a photocopier scanning files, easily copying the information placed on the file. After the scan, the disembodied voice continued to speak. Inheritor's amount of wind skills are 4. The difficulty of the trial has been upgraded from G grade to B grade. The number of trials the inheritor shall face are 4 trials. The first trial, the endurance trial, shall begin in 5 minutes, suggesting the inheritor to prepare to counterattack at maximum power once the enemies attack. Whoosh! Just like Horus, Aurelia was brought into a hall that had vines on its ceiling while the walls were made of polished green jade. Once Horus' knowledge of the place was proven to be true, Aurelia felt confused. She didn't know whether to leave this place or continue on and apologize to Horus afterwards. As she felt this feeling, a beam of light scanned her entire body as a disembodied voice started to speak afterwards, snapping Aurelia back to her senses. Inheritor's amount of wind skills are 14. The difficulty of the trial has been upgraded from G grade to SS grade. The number of trials the inheritor has to face are 7 trials, the maximum amount of trials possible. The first trial, the illusion trial, shall begin in 10 seconds, suggesting the inheritor to steal their heart and considering everything they see as lies. I wish the inheritor good luck. Arden and Mira continued to search around the area where the red dot last blinked within the crystal Dane gave them. It took them around half an hour before they finally gave up searching, lying beside a somewhat sturdy wall. Now, do you think that paying you 5,000 gold coins is an unfair deal from Dane's side? Do you think he would give you that much money for just a simple search? Mira, who looked at Arden with a smug expression, couldn't help but say, "Bah. Although I want to give up on this mission, I really need a lot of gold coins at the moment, so I just can't stop midway." Arden looked at Mira with a frown on his face as he replied to her statement. "What are you going to do then? Stay here until we find a way to sense the spiritas?" Mira joked afterwards, only to see Arden grab the large axe he carried on his back and started to swing it as he replied, "That's exactly what I'm planning. In the meantime, I'll train myself to get used to the harsh winds. Who knows, I might obtain a special skill from this place." Arden laughed afterwards. Mira looked at Arden like he was a madman before letting out a sigh and standing up as well. Grabbing her staff, she said, "You know what? I'll go train as well. If I want to fly faster, I would either have to increase my affinity with the wind element or learn space element magic, where the former is easier. You don't mind that, right?" Mira looked at Arden, who was continuously swinging his axe. Not long after, Arden looked at Mira and gave a cheerful smile. Mira then gave a light smile back before the two of them started to train within the Tempest Ruin, waiting for any sign of the spiritas. But what they didn't know was, inside Arden's pocket, the crystal Dane gave Arden. At one tip of the crystal, a red dot blinked. Chapter 42. The first trial, the endurance trial, shall begin in 5 minutes, suggesting the inheritor to prepare to counterattack at maximum power once the enemies attack. Hearing this suggestion from the disembodied voice that resounded throughout the Green Jade Hall, Horus couldn't help but say, "Well, that's fucking obvious." Spirit Energy Ascension. Whoosh! In an instant, a good chunk of his SP was siphoned and transformed into a silver flame that rose to a height of a few meters, covering Horus' body as it gradually turned more and more corporeal. Around 2 minutes later, a notification screen appeared in front of Horus' field of vision as he was trying to guess on how the endurance trial, which was said by the disembodied voice, worked. Ding! Spirit Energy Ascension has leveled up. The exchange of SP into power has reached its limit, boosting the user's power by 120%. The necessary requirements have been met. The skill, Spirit Ascension, can be activated. Oh, it leveled up. Neat. Looking through the notification screen, he noticed that the skill he would use a lot has leveled up, allowing him to attack with more power. He then looked at the last statement written on the notification screen, mumbling to himself, "I should save this skill for later. I don't even know how long this endurance trial lasts." He didn't know how much time he had left before the trial started, so he made sure to change half of his specialized animus to recover HP, while the other half stayed the same, recovering his SP. Coincidentally, at the moment when he finished changing his specialized animus, the disembodied voice started to speak once more. The 5 minutes of preparation time is now up. The endurance trial shall now begin. There are 10 waves of enemies, with each amount of enemies doubling every wave. Please take note that the enemies the inheritor shall face might have obtained a small portion of the skills of the inheritor. Listening to the last statement given by the disembodied voice, Oris couldn't help but curse. Well shit, this might be harder than I think. Or is it easier? Oris believed in the saying knowing the enemy is akin to winning 99% of the war or however it went. Since he would fight against himself, of course he knew how to fight against himself. He knew how powerful he was, with him being able to one-shot kill an S-grade to bits. Can any other A-grade do that? Of course not. Only he could. The first wave is starting, the disembodied voice said. Not long after, a branch that looked like him materialized in the middle of the hall, a few tens of meters away from where Oris currently was. Looking at the branch that materialized out of thin air, he commanded the system to identify its stats and skills. Ding. __. Oris. Existence level, inanimate, B. Level, 3 of 5. HP, 10 of 10. MP, 25 of 25. Stats. Toughness, 13. Thickness, 11. Nut hardness, 17. Skills. Roll ++ LV, 1, and fused nutshot LV, 2. __. HM, it actually does have some of my skills, Oris couldn't help but say. As for the stats, it's pretty much natural that they've been boosted by a bit since it's an enemy that's designed to protect the inheritance. As Oris was still talking to himself, a walnut infused with SP was shot towards where he was. Sensing that something was coming at him, Oris snapped back to reality and dodged the walnut with ease. With his movement speed being over 270 meters per hour, how could he not dodge a slow walnut? I should take time to raise my movement skill later, Oris muttered as he transformed one of the floating animus in his body into a spirit spear and shot it out towards the cloned Oris. Spirit spear, denial. Whoosh. Bang. With the help of his SP being inclined to the wind element, and him having the high wind affinity skill, the spirit spear he shot darted through the space, easily piercing the cloned Oris body. The cloned Oris couldn't even dodge it at all as it was just too fast for it. Poof! After having all of its HP drained, the cloned Oris gradually turned into dust that spread into the air. Oris looked at this dust and felt that it was gradually heading towards his way. After heading towards his way, the dust stuck to his body as a notification screen appeared in front of his field of vision. Ding! Wave 1 has been cleared. Experience +10. 1 Genesis point has been obtained. Ah! Oris couldn't help but shout out. He didn't expect to obtain a Genesis point through this inheritance. In his memories, the only thing it rewarded was experience, allowing him to level up quickly. But to think that it gave Genesis points? Genesis points in ISE gave the player access to the Genesis tree, which either held passive skills that allowed the player to become stronger, or perhaps active skills that were extremely broken in their own right. Well, I guess I can rush through the 5th layer of the Genesis tree in one go if I also kill the boss of the Lesser Experience Haven, Oris said to himself. That was his plan all along, to gain Genesis points in order to get access to the Genesis tree. The bosses of certain places gave out Genesis points, which the boss of the Lesser Experience Haven was also included. I should also check out the Greater Experience Haven if I have the time. As Oris was reforming his plan to add the inheritance as a variable to his plans, the disembodied voice resounded out. The second wave is starting. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, 2 clones of Oris materialized out of thin air at the same place the first cloned Oris appeared. Giving the 2 clones a quick scan, they had the same stats and skills as the first cloned Oris, allowing Oris to relax a bit. Forming another spirit spear with a floating anima, Oris instantly had a question form in his mind. So far, I've tried the spirit spear's acceptance and depression and they haven't disappointed me. As for denial, I've used it just now, but I don't really know how effective it is since that Aurus was killed in one go. Hence, I'll just use the consecutive forms. Aurus decided to play around while the cloned Auruses didn't really have any threat to him in the meantime. He remembered that using the 5 forms of the 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear skill consecutively would gradually allow the skill to grow stronger and stronger. Now, he was going to try it out. Whoosh! Spirit Spear, Anger. Bang! Rather than killing off a single clone, the Spirit Spear Aurus shot out split off into 2, easily killing the 2 at once. Eh? Aurus didn't know how that happened, only for a notification screen to pop up. Ding! Spirit Spear, Anger, has been used after Spirit Spear, Denial, allowing the former to have its properties boosted. Spirit Spear, Anger, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Rage, turning into a skill that hits at most 5 enemies with a 100% hit rate. Note that this upgraded form only activates once Spirit Spear, Denial, is used before Spirit Spear, Anger. If not, the normal effects of Spirit Spear, Anger, apply. In another Green Jade Hall. The first trial, the illusion trial, shall begin in 10 seconds. Suggesting the inheritor to steal their heart and considering everything they see as lies. I wish the inheritor good luck. Aurelia, who heard the disembodied voice, was surprised to hear a voice come from nowhere as she snapped herself back to reality. Eh? An illusion trial? What's an illusion? Aurelia couldn't help but ask. Although she had been an X-grade inanimate for over a year now and had even learned secrets from the animates through a place she discovered, but she still didn't know what an illusion was. While she was still troubling himself by trying to figure out what an illusion was, the disembodied voice resounded out once again. The 10 seconds of preparation time is over. The illusion trial shall now begin. The inheritor shall go through 10 illusion worlds, where the inheritor must break through each illusion one by one. Of course, the difficulty of breaking through the illusion worlds grow harder and harder as each world is broken. The first world, Nihility, has been casted. While the influx of words passed through Aurelia's sense of hearing, her field of vision was instantly taken over by an extremely pitch-black darkness that could even be said to be equivalent to the darkness Junibius feel in their hearts. Looking around her, Aurelia tried to move around and noticed that she could, but whatever she did, she had no gauge as to how far she went as everything around her was pitch black. Setting the problem of what an illusion was aside, she let out a sigh and said to herself, I should break from this illusion thingy first. Then, I'll quit this inheritance thingy and apologize to Aurus. Chapter 43. Ho! Aurus couldn't help but be surprised after seeing that the next form of the Spirit Spear was upgraded thanks to activating the spear forms from the first to the next. Of course, before he started to actively use the Spirit Spear back then when he evolved it, he read through the 5 basic forms of the Spirit Spear. The first form, Denial, was a form that was the second strongest out of all the forms, being behind Acceptance. But what it gave in exchange was that the damage received by the enemy would increase by a certain amount for a short while. The next form, Anger, was a form that was similar to the law form of the Nut Trident Trial. It had a 100% hit rate and it followed the enemy wherever it went. As for the next form after Anger, which was Bargaining, was a form that was similar to the Sanction form of the Nut Trident Triad, being able to shoot a lot of spirit spears within a short span of time. The fourth form, Depression, was a form that focused on inflicting debuffs to the enemy. These debuffs are reduced attack power and reduced movement speed spectrally. The fifth and final form, Acceptance, was a form that dealt the highest damage compared to all of the other 4 forms. Even though the damage dealt is already high, it grows stronger as the branch grows stronger in terms of SP amount. Knowing the basic uses of these forms, he knew which form to use at an opponent and when to use it. But most of the time, it just ends up with him using the Acceptance form to get over with it at a quick speed. I wonder what the upgraded third form would be, Aurus muttered to himself as the 2 clones that he killed disintegrated into dust. This dust then headed towards Aurus' body, which was absorbed by his body in an instant. Ding! Wave 2 has been cleared. Experience plus 20. 1 Genesis point has been obtained. Ah! After reading through the notifications he received, he noticed that he didn't get an additional Genesis point after clearing the second wave. He thought that, since the number of enemies he needed to kill for every wave multiplied, the amount he would get would multiply as well. Letting out an understanding sigh, he muttered to himself, then again, if that was the case, I would be able to reach the 30th layer of the Genesis tree in time. It only took an instant for the disembodied voice to talk once more as 4 clones that had the same stats as the previous clones appeared in the center of the green jade hall. The third wave is starting. Whoosh! In an instant, 4 walnuts that were infused with SP headed towards Aurus' body as they wanted to corner him with these shots, forcing him to take damage. From their perspective, it was a genius idea that would definitely succeed if they were fighting against a branch of the same level. Sadly, Aurus was a monster in his own right. Spirit Wind Bolt. Whoosh! Bang! Bang! Conjuring a crude magic circle within his spell core that shot out an energy bolt, he then controlled this energy bolt to pierce through the 4 walnuts, thus negating the damage he would possibly receive. Surprisingly, the energy bolt still didn't dissipate after piercing through the 4 walnuts. With that, Aurus decided to just control the energy bolt to head towards one of the clones. Whoosh! Even though the clone that Aurus aimed for tried to dodge, the sheer speed of the energy bolt was vastly superior to its movement speed, killing the clone in one shot. Ding! Unexpectedly, a notification screen appeared in front of Aurus' field of vision, forcing him to read the words written on the screen. Not long after, he couldn't help but curse out. Fuck! The third form of the Spirit Spear, bargaining, has not been used after the second form, anger. Instead, a foreign skill was used. The chain has been broken. User must start all over to fully exhibit the true prowess of the Spirit Spear. Ha, you should have said so earlier. Aurus couldn't help but complain at the system as he looked at the 3 remaining clones within the Green Jade Hall. Bang! Bang! Without caring about what Aurus felt, the 3 clones shot out another round of walnuts towards Aurus, not even feeling any despair from seeing their compatriot die. Well, it was a given, they were clones created by the inheritance. They were meant to die. Aurus, on the other hand, saw these walnuts as a provocation and couldn't help but let out an aura filled with killing intent as he grimly smiled inwardly. Ho! You still attack me even though you know I'm pissed? How bold of you guys. Spirit Wind Bolt. Bang. Bang. With the cooldown of the spell being reduced thanks to the notifications and other happenings before casting the spell, he was able to destroy the walnuts that were headed for him once more and decided to aim the energy bolt towards the ground. Whoosh! Rather than making a crater on the floor, the energy bolt dissipated into thin air as the energy stored within it was used up. Aurus didn't waste his time as he formed 2 spirit spears using his floating animus, shooting the first spirit spear towards one clone as he chanted, Spirit Spear, Denial. Bang! Without any difficulty, the spirit spear easily pierced through the clone and killed it in one shot, just like the fate of the clone that was killed before it. Not long after shooting out the first spear, he then shot out the second spirit spear towards one of the 2 remaining clones. Unsurprisingly, in the middle of its trajectory, the spirit spear split off into 2 as it killed the 2 remaining clones at the same time. Spirit Spear, Anger. Bang. Ding. Spirit Spear, Anger, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Rage. Seeing that he was back to where he previously was, Aurus let out a small sigh as he waited for the next wave of enemies to come at him. Well, that wave was incredibly fast. Aurus couldn't help but mutter to himself. Contrary to what Aurus sees, the speed of the fight was not actually that fast at all. The attack speed of the branches were reliant on their movement speed, which was sped up by 60 times in order to reduce the amount of time between fights. Nonetheless, the fights between branches and trees were still slow. Even for Aurus, who had a movement speed of 270 meters per hour, he would have slight difficulty in dodging attacks from branches and trees of the same grade as they almost had the same movement speed. Only when he activated his multiple buffs was he able to fight against S grades. Ding! Wave 3 has been cleared. Experience plus 40. 1 Genesis point has been obtained. Checking his status screen while he still had the time, he noticed that he only need around 250 XP to fully max his current grade. Then again, I'll be staying in this form for a while to get better evolutions, Horus said to himself as he checked his status screen. Not long after, the disembodied voice resounded throughout the hall, reminding Horus about the next wave of enemies he would face. The fourth wave is starting. Whoosh! In an instant, 8 clones appeared in the center of the Green Jade Hall. As Horus was looking at the clones to see if the clones he would face this round had the same stats as the previous clones he fought against, only to see a clone that looked stronger than the clones he had faced before. Identify. Ding. __. Horus. Existence level, inanimate, A. Level, 4 of 10. HP, 105 of 105. SP, 280 of 280. Stats. Tenacity, 17. Vitality, 22. Spirit, 28. Skills. Roll plus LV, 9. Net Trident Triad LV, 8. Wind Affinity LV, 2. Spirit Channeling LV, 2. __. HM. The stat this time is closer to my current form. Even the appearance is somewhat close to what I currently look like, Horus couldn't help but say. The stronger clone glowed a faint green light as it exuded an aura that was slightly similar to Horus' aura. As for the skills though, it's extremely lacking. Horus couldn't help but chuckle after seeing this. Nonetheless, you're still weak in front of me. I won't fuck up this time. Manifesting a spirit spear using a floating anima, he shot it towards the strong clone as he chanted, "Spirit spear, bargaining." Whoosh! The spirit spear rapidly darted towards the strong clone, only for it to incessantly multiply in number as it gradually got closer and closer to the strong clone. And then, poof! It disappeared. Eh? Horus was dumbfounded. Although he made sure to consecutively use the forms, the fact that his attack disappearing before it even the enemy was unheard of. But then, weening. Horus instantly heard a buzzing sound come from the ceiling of the Green Jade Hall and looked upwards, only to gasp in shock. The spirit spear he shot was teleported to the ceiling of the hall, including the clone spirit spears as they glowed a faint green before charging downwards towards the 8 clones as if they were bombs dropped off from a bomber plane. Ding. Spirit Spear, bargaining, has been used after Spirit Spear, anger, allowing the former's properties to be boosted. Spirit Spear, bargaining, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, insanity, turning into a skill that hits every enemy within a certain radius. Chapter 44. Ding. With the fourth wave of enemies being killed without any difficulty thanks to the upgraded form of bargaining, the dust that was transformed from the bodies of the clones Horus killed gradually headed towards his body before being absorbed as a notification screen appeared in front of his field of vision. Wave 4 has been cleared. Experience plus 80. 2 Genesis points have been obtained. After being shocked with the fact that the upgraded form of bargaining was extremely destructive and useful, Horus was shocked once more as he found out that the amount of Genesis points he obtained was increased by 1. Now where did this extra Genesis point come from? Horus asked himself. Pondering for a bit, he tried to remember what he did differently and noticed that there wasn't anything different to what he was doing at all. With that being the only thing that came to mind from his side, he then thought about the enemies he faced in the fourth wave, remembering that there was a new type of enemy. Maybe it has something to do with the varieties of enemies I face against. With the hypothesis being kept in mind, Horus looked at the center of the Green Jade Hall as the disembodied voice resounded through the hall. The fifth wave is starting. Whoosh! With the number of enemies being doubled every wave, he was now facing against 16 clones of himself at the same time. Looking at the different types of enemies he had in the current wave, he noticed that there were now 2 strong clones of himself. With that, he noticed that every time a certain type of clone reaches a certain threshold, a new type of clone would be released. I'll have to test if my hypothesis is true or not though. As Horus was still thinking of his hypothesis, a bombardment of 14 walnuts headed towards his way, with 2 tridents made from walnuts were behind the 14 walnuts, exuding a feeling that they were unavoidable. Welp, this is going to be hard to dodge, Oris said to himself as he looked at the 16 shots coming at him. Without any choice, he transformed a floating anima into a spirit spear and shot it out towards the 16 clones as he said, "Then let's not dodge it and kill them before the shots hit me." Spirit spear, depression. Whoosh! Supported by Oris' high movement speed, the speed at which the spear reached the clones was considerably faster than the speed of the shots the clones shot out, not even allowing to be on guard. In the midst of its flight, the spirit spear gradually became darker in color as it slowly transformed into a spherical shape. Once it collided with one of the clones' bodies, it had already compressed its shape into a tiny bead that was even smaller than the tip of a finger. Oris looked at this with interest. If the upgraded form before this made the spirit spear disappear before bombarding the clones with incessant attacks? How about this current form where the spirit spear transformed into a tiny dark sphere? Even though he expected something special to happen, he wasn't prepared for what happened next. The tiny dark sphere that was previously the spirit spear embedded itself into the body of the clone it hit before. Exploding. Bang! In an instant, the tiny dark sphere exploded within the clone's body as a domain that was pitch black in color covered the other clones' bodies as they gradually lost health and died under the effects of this domain. Oris was at a loss for words. With each form being used after the previous one, the effects of the form that was upgraded afterwards grew more and more crazy in effect. Ding! In the midst of this situation where the dark domain engulfed the clones' bodies, a notification screen appeared in front of Oris' field of vision. Spirit Spear, Depression, has been used after Spirit Spear, Bargaining, allowing the former's properties to be boosted. Spirit Spear, Depression, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Despair, turning into a skill that casts a domain around a certain radius where the enemies are greatly suppressed while the user that casted the skill has its stats greatly boosted. Lasts for 5 seconds. A domain-type skill. Oris couldn't help but mutter softly. As he looked at the domain he made in front of him, there was no semblance of a domain whatsoever. To Oris, the domain looked like a killing chamber. A killing chamber where the enemies that are inside the killing chamber would have a sentence that equaled to certain death. Not long after the clone's death, the domain that covered their bodies dissipated into thin air as the dust transformed from their bodies instantly darted towards Oris' body as the usual notification screen he saw appeared in front of his field of vision. Ding! Wave 5 has been cleared. Experience plus 160. 2 Genesis points have been obtained. While Oris was looking at the notification screen that came out after every wave, another notification screen appeared behind the notification screen he was reading, prompting to move the current notification screen away and look at the other notification screen with surprise. Ding! Congratulations! Oris has leveled up. Oris has reached the max level. Oris has not yet met the necessary requirements to evolve. At first, he was ecstatic to see that he had finally reached the maximum level for his current grade, as he only needed to grind his skills in order to obtain a better evolution. But after reading the final statement, he saw that he still needed to do something else. Huh? Why can't I evolve? Oris thought to himself. After a while, he realized what he was missing. Life and will points. Indeed, the points that could be exchanged for temporary power were also the requirements needed in order to evolve. For saplings, it was life points. For branch formosii, it was will points. I'll have to grind some life and will points later, Oris muttered as the disembodied voice started to talk again. The 6th wave is starting. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, 32 clones, where 4 of them were strong clones while 28 of them were the normal clones, appeared in the center of the green jade hall, positioning themselves towards Oris' direction as they were about to fire their nut tridents and walnuts. Oh no, you don't. I'll go first. Oris couldn't help but shout as he knew that with his current movement speed, he would be cornered by all of the tridents and walnuts. He could use his movement speed boosting skills and spells, but he wanted to use them only for strong enemies, which he had a feeling that would pop up next round. Hastily forming a spirit spear, he shot it out towards one of the strong clones as he shouted, "Spirit Spear, Acceptance." Whoosh! The spirit spear was shot out like normal, darting towards the direction of one of the strong clones as they were still unaware of the spirit spear hitting towards them. At that instant, wing! The spirit spear froze in place. The clones also froze in place as well, as if everyone was stuck in time. Oris, who was not affected by this, looked at this weird situation and felt a looming destructive aura gradually envelop all of the clones. Not long after, like they were not there in the first place, the bodies of the clones disappeared into thin air as any remnant of the clones being there wasn't even left behind. Ding! Spirit Spear, Acceptance, has been used after Spirit Spear, Depression, allowing the former's properties to be boosted. Spirit Spear, Acceptance, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Truth, turning into a skill that attacks every enemy seen by the user and deals damage that is equivalent to 25 times of the user's attack stat. Multiplier increases as the level of the skill is increased. On another green jade hall, Aurelia finally broke through the second illusion world after wasting multiple minutes finding the exit. As a branch at heart, she didn't know the meaning of being mentally exhausted, using her soul to the limit as she continued to find the exit to each illusion world using logical and rational thinking, and of course, brute force. Being a leader of an alliance, one must not only be the strongest, one must also be wise. Letting out a sigh of relief as she saw the green jade hall for the first time, she couldn't help but complain about her trial. This illusion thingy is definitely confusing. It forces me to use all of my soul to think up of ways to escape. With her complaining about the difficulty of her trial, she couldn't help but think about Oris and how he was faring. I wonder how far Oris has gone in his trial. While thinking about Oris, the disembodied voice that didn't care about what Aurelia felt continued to resound throughout the green jade hall. The third world, Longevity, is now being casted. Remembering that there were still 7 more things like these after this one, Aurelia finally snapped and couldn't help but say as she sighed, "Ah shit, here we go again." Chapter 45. Oris was at a loss for words after seeing the upgraded form of what was possibly his hardest hitting skill up to date. Trying to comprehend what just happened, Oris looked at the center of the hall as dust gradually materialized in the center of the hall before heading towards Oris' way to be absorbed. Ding! Wave 6 has been cleared. Experience plus 320. 2 Genesis points have been obtained. Not minding the notification screen that popped up in front of his field of vision, Oris tried to remember what happened once the final form was shot out. He remembered that he shot it out like normal, just like any other spirit spear. At the next instant, though, the spirit spear froze in place, as if it was stuck in time. And then not long after that, all of the enemies instantly disappeared without a trace as they froze in place as well. No matter how many times Oris tried to understand how the upgraded final form works, he couldn't get how the spirit spear that was stuck in place was able to kill all of the enemies with one hit. In the end, Oris let out a sigh and said to himself, "You know what? Why should I bother with this? I'm going to evolve this skill sooner or later anyway." After saying that, the disembodied voice resounded throughout the hall, notifying Oris of the next wave. The 7th wave is starting. Please proceed with caution. Eh? Oris couldn't help but notice the disembodied voice say another sentence after announcing the next wave. Seeing that the disembodied voice had the heart to warn him of the dangers of the next wave, Oris didn't hesitate to use high spirit channeling. Whoosh! 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 Transforming the other specialized animus he had that recovered SP into a specialized anima that recovered SP, Oris' SP bar that was completely drained of its content thanks to him using the acceptance form, was gradually being filled at a fast rate as the next wave of enemies materialized. Whoosh! In an instant, 64 enemies appeared in the center of the green jade hall, forming a circle of branches that was around 5 meters in radius. On the edge of this circle were the first type of clones that Oris encountered. In the inner portion of this circle, the stronger clones that Oris didn't think were really strong were seen. As for the center though, in the midst of him recovering his SP, he couldn't help but notice a branch in the center that looked like him but had an aura that felt like it was stronger than him. Ding! High Spirit Channeling has leveled up. High Spirit Channeling has reached the max level. High Spirit Channeling has met the necessary requirements and is ready to evolve. While staring at the new branch, this notification screen popped up in front of his field of vision, prompting him to ignore the notification screen and move it away, and then identify the new branch as he deactivated the high spirit channeling skill. Ding. __. Aurus. Existence level, inanimate, S. Level, 4 of 20. HP, 510 of 510. MP, 735 of 735. Stats. Fortitude, 57. True Spirit, 62. Energy, 73. Skills. Tempestuous Spiritus Glide LV, 6. Nut Trident Triad LV, Max. Middle Low Spirit Spell Core, Wind Variant, LV, 4. Wind Affinity LV, Max. Spirit Energy Sacrifice LV, 3. __. Aurus was dumbfounded for a bit as he changed half of his specialized animus to recover SP. He blinked a few times as he couldn't believe what he was seeing. After seeing that this branch was already doing something similar to what Aurus by igniting a silver flame around its body, it seemed that Aurus wasn't hallucinating at all. Well shit, Aurus couldn't help but say as he looked at the huge amount of branches he had to currently face. While thinking of his next move, the branches moved first, shooting out 56 walnuts and 7 tridents, totaling to a number of 63 shots that Aurus would have to dodge if he did not want to get injured. Spirit Wind Bolt. Without hesitation, Aurus shot out an energy bolt that pierced through 24 walnuts and denied them of their access to colliding with his body. As for the 39 remaining shots, Aurus transformed a floating anima into a spirit spear and used spirit spear, bargaining, to destroy the shots before it could even get to him. Bang! Bang! With all of the shots destroyed, Aurus was now going to retaliate with his own skill, only to be blocked by the strongest branch out of all the clones he had faced. Whoosh! The strong branch was basically an upgrade of Aurus, while also being a downgrade on some. Its movement speed was higher than Aurus' movement speed, including its spell core, but for the others, it was weaker than Aurus' skills. Nonetheless, the attack that the really strong clone shot out was a spirit wind bolt that traveled at a high speed. Looking at the energy bolt that was heading towards his way, Aurus did not hesitate to use his Gale Hover spell and dodge the bolt as he headed towards the center of the clone circle. Whoosh! Since the 10-minute cooldown was already gone earlier, with him facing against an enemy that was now somewhat hard to face against, Aurus did not hesitate to use his spell. As for Tempest Burst, though. Only when I meet an enemy that deserves it do I use it, Aurus muttered to himself as he was now floating above the clones, conjuring an extremely clean magic circle within his spell core as he infused more and more SP into it, bringing an aura of intense destruction out and about. Whoosh! Swoosh! The sound of a windstorm could be heard through the green jade hall as Aurus aimed the magic spell he was conjuring towards the really strong clone. Not long after, he shot the spell as he said, Spirit Wind Burst. Whoosh! As if the detonation of a bomb occurred within the green jade hall, the spell that was composed of multiple sharp wind energy particles collided with all of the clones' bodies and shredded it to pieces, including the body of the really strong clone as the attack power of the magic spell was incredibly high. __. Spirit Wind Burst. A spell that exerts a higher attack power than Spirit Wind Ball. It is an attack that damages enemies within a certain radius through the help of overly charged wind energy particles. SP cost, 50 SP. __. This spell was the spell he acquired after maxing out the low spirit spell core skill. Not disappointing his expectations, it did what it had to do, which was kill all of his enemies. Not long after the death of the 64 clones, the dust that was transformed from the clones' bodies rushed towards Aurus' body, which was absorbed by him as a notification screen appeared in front of his field of vision. Ding! Wave 7 has been cleared. Experience plus 640. 3 Genesis points have been acquired. At this moment, Aurus' eyes sparkled after seeing how much Genesis points he obtained this round. Ha ha ha. My hypothesis was correct. The more types of enemies I fight, the more Genesis points I obtain. Feeling satisfied with his hypothesis being correct, he looked at his status screen and noticed how much unused experience points he had after clearing the 7th wave. With this, I might be able to breeze through levels when I evolve to S grade, Horus said to himself as the circle of clones materialized below his body as he was floating. Concurrently, while the materialization was happening, the disembodied voice started to talk. The 8th wave is starting. Please proceed with caution. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 128 clones. This was the number of clones Horus had to fight during this wave. 2 of which were the really strong clones Horus fought against last wave. While looking at the 128 clones under him, Horus couldn't help but ponder about his next strategy. He could use the forms of the Spirit Spear consecutively, but it would take him a while to truly deal some damage to the clones. He could also use spirit magic spells, but 2 of the 3 offensive spells were on cooldown, with only 1 offensive spell being able to cast it while the other 2 were support-type magic. As for the clones, they did not hesitate to shoot their walnuts and tridents towards Horus' way as 126 shots came to hit Horus' body. You know what? Since he was going to face 126 shots at once, Horus made up his mind and casted the only offensive spell he could cast. Spirit Wind Ball. Whoosh. Bang. Since he was cornered on all sides by these shots, he used the momentum of the Spirit Wind Ball to carve a path out of the bombardment as he hovered with a fast speed to get out of harm's way. I knew I should have headed towards the edges of the hall. After experiencing a situation where he was cornered by shots from all sides, Horus did not want that to happen again as he headed towards an edge of the Green Jade Hall, dodging all of the shots that came after him. As for the 2 really strong clones, they were currently sacrificing SP in exchange for power as a silver flame covered their bodies. Looking at this, Horus transformed one of his floating animus into a spirit spear as he smiled inwardly. Let's start the combo all over again. Spirit Spear, Denial. Chapter 46. Spirit Spear, Denial. Bang. With Horus being buffed by the Gale Hover spell in terms of movement speed, even before the clones could react, the Spirit Spear pierced through one of the 2 really strong clones, killing it off with 1 shot. Whoosh! After shooting out the first form of the Spirit Spear, Horus then darted to another edge of the Green Jade Hall as he noticed that the weak clones shot their walnuts out as the strong clones shot out their tridents that followed wherever Horus went. As for the remaining really strong clone, it also prepared a trident that was formed from a walnut. Just like the strong clones, it prepared a trident that followed wherever Horus went. Bang! Bang! A bombardment of walnuts and tridents headed towards Horus' direction, but was dodged at the last minute as he went towards another edge of the Green Jade Hall. While doing so, he prepared another Spirit Spear and shot it without hesitation towards the clones as he shouted, Spirit Spear, Anger. Ding! Spirit Spear, Anger, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Rage. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, the single Spirit Spear split off into 5 smaller Spirit Spears that headed towards a random clone, easily killing off 3 weak clones and 2 strong clones as their walnuts and tridents collided with the Green Jade Hall. Bang! The combined sounds of the walnuts and tridents hitting the wall reverberated throughout the hall, yet it did not leave any scratch on the walls of the hall at all. Horus couldn't help but look at this and mutter, Damn. That one sturdy wall right there. Wait, why am I thinking about this? I still have over 120 sticks wanting to attack me. And attack him they did. Whoosh! 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 As Horus was muttering to himself, he froze in place midair as the walnuts and tridents were now heading towards one fixed direction, without having to worry about Horus dodging or do anything fishy. In the minds of the clones, they couldn't help but feel a sense of schadenfreude when they looked at Horus, knowing that he was going to die from this bombardment. Oh wait. These clones are just protectors of the inheritance, they don't have any minds or souls at all. As for Horus, he looked at this barrage of shots and let out a grim yet cheerful aura as he stopped hovering and landed on the ground. Bang! Bang! All of the walnuts and tridents were left with the fate of hitting the wall once more, leaving Horus unscathed. Horus conjured another Spirit Spear again and looked at the remaining clones with a sneering face, well, a sneering aura. Ha! You thought I couldn't disable my flight? This is the start of true mayhem. Spirit Spear, Bargaining. Ding. Spirit Spear, Bargaining, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Insanity. The Spirit Spear that Oris shot out traveled towards the remaining really strong clone in an instant before it disappeared in an instant. Whoosh! The really strong clone that Oris targeted instantly felt a sense of looming danger heading towards its way, only for it to disappear midway. What it did not know, though, was that the danger has only begun. Wing! At the next instant, the Spirit Spear disappeared. An array of light appeared on the ceiling of the hall as multiple glowing Spirit Spears darted down and aimed at all of the clones. These glowing Spirit Spears felt like the wrath of the heavenly gods when they noticed that their benevolent followers committed blasphemy. Bang! Bang! Within seconds, the hall that was previously filled with 122 clones was cleared of all of it in an instant as the bombardment of fast and strong Spirit Spears killed them off one by one. As the skill dissipated once Oris knew that every single clone was now dead, the dust that was transformed and accumulated from the bodies of the clones darted towards Oris' body as a notification screen appeared in front of his field of vision. Ding! Wave 8 has been cleared. Experience plus 1,280. 3 Genesis points have been obtained. Oris instantly cleared his field of vision and used the High Spirit Channeling skill to refill his SP, as a decent chunk of his SP was consumed by the skills he used. While refilling his SP, the disembodied voice, which did not know what the word mercy meant, resounded throughout the hall as a huge number of clones appeared in the center of the Green Jade Hall, forming a circle that was larger than the previous circle of clones made in the last wave. The 9th wave is starting. Please proceed with caution. Oris couldn't help but let out a sigh as he tried to think up of a method to hastily kill all of the clones while not consuming a lot of SP. How many clones was Oris going to fight against in this wave? Since every consecutive wave, the enemies doubled in number, that meant that Oris had to fight against 256 clones, 4 of which were the really strong clones. Oris looked at the 256 clones he had to face and noticed that they were already preparing their shots, which already exceeded 200 shots. Feeling the pressure of being cornered from all sides, Oris decided that the best way to kill all of them in one go was to whoosh! Use the Spirit Spear. Warning! Spirit Spear, Depression. The Spirit Spear that flew over the bodies of multiple clones gradually compressed in size as it turned into a dark yet condensed sphere of chaos. Not long after, this sphere pierced through one of the really strong clones and instantly expanded into a size that engulfed all of the 256 clones within it. Ding! Spirit Spear, Depression, has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Despair. Swoosh! The dark and condensed sphere expanded to a size of over 10 meters in radius, easily engulfing all of the clones that formed a circle of only 7 meters in radius. Under the effects of the domain, the bodies of the clones gradually withered away as their dust piled up on the floor. While they were gradually withering away as if they were cursed by the god of death himself, the really strong clones tried to combat against this effect by expanding the silver flames that covered their bodies to the limit. Sadly, it only slightly extended the duration of their pain until they finally withered away to ashes, adding onto the pile of dust that was on the floor. Well, not that branches feel pain anyway. A few seconds later, the dark domain that covered a good portion of the hall finally disappeared as the dust that piled up headed towards Oris' body as the ever-familiar notification screen appeared in front of his field of vision. Ding! Wave 9 has been cleared. Experience plus 2,560. 3 Genesis points have been obtained. Well, that was easier than I thought. Oris couldn't help but say as a single skill wiped out all of the clones that he would have to face if he used another skill. Then again, it would be a pain to do the combo from the start again. I'm just lucky that I was able to use the upgraded form of depression. Yeah. Just lucky. Sparing no time to prepare for the next wave, Oris activated the High Spirit Channeling skill to its limit as he converted all of his specialized animus to recover his SP. In the midst of his SP recovery, Oris couldn't help but say, "This skill is actually more helpful than I thought. I should evolve it after this first trial finishes." Ding! Getting the notification that his SP bar was fully refilled, Oris deactivated the High Spirit Channeling skill and reverted half of his specialized animus to recover SP. Coincidentally, the disembodied voice talked at this moment, reminding Oris of something. The 10th and final wave is starting. To the Inheritor, I hope you survive this final wave. Ah. It's already the last wave, Oris couldn't help but say to himself. It has been like what? A few hours already? Although he already activated his Gale Hover spell on the waves near the end, the total time it took for him to reach this current stage already amassed to a total of about 2 hours or so. As to why, this is because of their attack and movement speed. Whoosh! In an instant, 512 clones appeared in the center of the Green Jade Hall, all of which were facing the direction where Oris was. Oris looked back at the clones and noticed that there was a new type of clone in the center of the circle, one that was even stronger than the really strong clones he fought against a few waves ago. Letting out a small sigh, Oris looked at the clone and said, "Identify." In another Green Jade Hall. "Oh God, I'm finally done." Aurelia couldn't help but shout out as she broke out of the last illusion world that the first trial brought to her. Aurelia mulled over what happened for a bit and muttered to herself, "How much time did I use up in this illusion world?" Closing her eyes and recalling the events that happened within the illusion world, she noticed that there was no difference in time when compared to the previous illusion world she cleared. What the heck? I didn't improve my time at all? Aurelia couldn't help but curse. Since she was going to be stuck in this Green Jade Hall, she decided to just accept the trial and savor the experience. Once the trial was done and the hall gave her the option to leave, she would leave immediately. What she didn't know though was that once the trial started, the trial can't be stopped midway, it has to be done from start to finish. What she also failed to notice was that, as the illusion worlds grew harder and harder in difficulty, she was able to clear them at the same time it took her to clear the previous illusion worlds. While cursing at herself, the disembodied voice did not mind Aurelia's complaints and resounded throughout the hall. The 10th world, Samsara, has been cleared. The first trial is now completed. Time used to clear the first trial, 3 hours 27 minutes. Score grade S. The Inheritor has cleared the trial with an excellent score, is able to do the second trial with a reduced difficulty. Not only that, the Inheritor is awarded a special reward thanks to it achieving an S grade score. Reward is being rolled by the inheritance. Reward has been rolled. The passive skill, Blessing of the Tetraelemental Tempest, has been acquired. Chapter 47. Identify. Ding. In an instant, the information about the extremely string clone that was in the center of the circle of clones appeared in front of Oris' field of vision. __. Future Oris. Existence level, inanimate, S. Level, 19 of 20. HP, 1525 of 1525. SP, 2623 of 2623. Stats. Fortitude, 225. True Spirit, 286. Energy, 346. Skills. Extreme Spiritus Gale LV, 2, 5th Ascension Spirit Shot LV, 1, True Spirit Transformation LV, 2, other skills uncheckable due to the skill, species analysis, being low level. __. Nope. Oris shook his head in disbelief. Nope. There's no fucking way I'll fight against this head-on. Extreme Spiritus Gale? Is that the upgraded version of Tempestuous Spiritus Glide? 5th Ascension Spirit Shot, probably another Path 4, 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear? True Spirit Transformation, this, I think I know what this is. Looking back and forth at the screen in front of his field of vision and at the extremely strong clone that was at the center of the circle of clones, Oris had a foreboding feeling that this might be him in the future if he were to progress at his current rate. Whoosh! 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 In an instant, over 500 shots consisting of walnuts and tridents headed towards Oris' way as he was still looking at the extremely strong clone. Is this the reason why that clone was named Future Oris? Is it for me to reflect on my current choices? Oris couldn't help but say as he dodged the walnuts and tridents with ease thanks to the Gale Hover spell. Continuing to look at the extremely strong clone, he noticed that the extremely strong clone was covered in a pure white flame rather than a silver flame that usually covered his body. He continued to watch this extremely strong clone prepare for its attack towards Horus as he got closer to the extremely strong clone. If the clones that Horus fought had a sense of sentience right now, they would be extremely shocked because their enemy was charging towards them, letting him become an easy target. But since these clones weren't sentient in any way, even if they were at the A grade or S grade, they only positioned their bodies to aim at Horus as they waited for their skills to cool down. Horus, on the other hand, continued to look at the extremely strong clone as if he was gazing into the future. Not long after, he snapped back to reality as he felt that he went into a daze after he floated in midair. If this is going to be my future, then I'll surpass that future. Whoosh! Forming a spirit spear with a floating anima, Horus shot this spirit spear that was infused with all of his SP as it headed towards the extremely strong clone's way. Since it was the most dangerous threat within the Green Jade Hall, Horus had no choice but to target it. To a future I got the chance to meet, farewell. Spirit Spear, Acceptance. Ding. Spirit Spear, Acceptance has been upgraded to Spirit Spear, Truth. Warning. In the midst of the Spirit Spear heading towards the extremely strong clone, it froze in place as all of the other clones froze in place as well. Just like what he witnessed before when he used the upgraded form of Acceptance, all of his enemies froze in time. Bang! Bang! One by one, all of the clones he would have faced, from weakest to strongest, were killed in sequence as it created a spiraling pattern of nothingness. Indeed, there was nothing left after this attack. No dust, no remnant of the clones whatsoever. Just Horus and an empty Green Jade Hall. Ding! Ah! Basking in the feeling of tranquility, Horus was startled by the notification sound that came with the notification screen that popped up in front of his field of vision. 5 Melancholy Spirit Spear has leveled up. Purified Spirit Energy Core, Winged Variant, has leveled up. Neat. Not long after witnessing a silent massacre of over 500 branches of different sizes, Horus landed on the ground as his Gale Hover spell finally lost its effect. A few seconds later, a large pile of dust suddenly appeared in midair as it rushed towards Horus' body, covering him in a thick layer of dust not long after that .n/1n. Ding! Wave 10 has been cleared. Experience plus 5,120. 5 Genesis points have been obtained. Although he was covered by a thick layer of dust, Horus was still able to see the notification screen that always popped up whenever a wave finished thanks to him having Soul Perception Eye. So I've accumulated over 8,000 and used experience points for my S-grade endeavors. Neat. Also, 5 Genesis points? That's quite a jump, considering that every time a new type of enemy was shown, only a single Genesis point would be added. Putting the matter of the Genesis points to the back of his head, Horus let out a soft sigh as he hastily organized the thoughts in his mind before commanding, Evolve, High Spirit Channeling. Ding! Not even a tenth of a second has passed, but the system had already finished the evolution of the skill. High Spirit Channeling has been upgraded to Grand Spirit and Vitality Transformation. Horus looked at the new skill's name and couldn't help but nod as he said, now the skill is showing what it's actually doing. It's transforming vitality into spirit, or in this case, SP, pretty nice. It was only at this moment that the disembodied voice started to talk once more. The 10th wave has been successfully cleared. The first trial of endurance is now complete. Time taken to complete trial, 4 hours 10 minutes. Score grade. With the inheritor obtaining a higher than average score, the inheritance shall give the inheritor a special reward before the second trial starts. Hearing the consecutive statements come one by one, Horus hastily processed all of what was said and had his eyes light up after the somewhat melancholic situation of the 10th wave. A reward? I don't remember the individual trials themselves having rewards. Then again, who am I to refuse free rewards? Just let it be a good reward. As these words came out of his soul, the disembodied voice went silent for a bit before continuing to talk. The special reward is decided on random by the inheritance. Picking in process. The special reward has been picked. The inheritor's movement skill shall have its level increased by 3. Ding. Ding. At the instant the disembodied voice was finished talking, 3 notification screens that instantly combined into one appeared in front of Aura's field of vision. Tempestuous Spiritus Glide has leveled up thrice. Ha! At first, Aura's eyes shone like the stars, only for it to dim and make him curse out loud. Ha! This is what I get? What the fuck? Is this some kind of joke? I thought this inheritance gave out useful things. What Horus didn't know was that this reward would allow him to soar farther in the path to becoming a god. Not long after Horus started to curse, the disembodied voice started to resound throughout the hall once more as it explained the second trial. It was at this moment that Horus decided to shut up. Within 10 minutes, the next trial, the speed trial, shall begin. This trial needs the inheritor to traverse 10 kilometers within a day or less. All of the inheritor's skills shall be returned to a usable state once the trial begins. Chapter 48. The 10 minutes of rest time shall now begin. The inheritor shall be reminded of the second trial once only a minute remains. The disembodied voice that resounded throughout the hall when the first trial was happening resounded once more as it told Horus about the second trial. For a while, Horus was at a loss for words, not knowing what to say after the disembodied voice told him the next trial he would have to face. It only took Horus around 10 seconds or so to recover from his silence as he let out a sigh and looked up at the ceiling. Man, I don't know if this is karma or not, but heck, with this, I think I might just believe in it. Horus said a few words of apologies in his mind before his soul felt lighter thanks to the guilt being lessened. Getting back to his somewhat lively condition back again, Horus started to think up of what he was going to do in the second trial. Since the second trial needs me to traverse 10 kilometers within the span of 24 hours or less, it would feel extremely easy if it was just a straight path that had no obstacles whatsoever. This would possibly mean that the path I'm going to have traverse would be crooked and have tons of obstacles that vary in size and possibly threat. With my movement skill being boosted by 3 levels, my movement speed is now over 300 meters per hour, which means I can traverse 10 kilometers within 34 hours or so, considering the fact that the path in front of me is clear. Horus closed his sense of sight for a bit as he tried to visualize the process of the second trial according to what he said to himself just now. He imagined that the path in front of him would be extremely crooked, with rocks and twigs and even some enemies at the side. After visualizing the path, he then started to think a bit more. If this is what is going to happen in the next trial, then first priority would be to clear the path I'd have to tread. No, wait, some parts of the path since I have Gale Hover. No, wait again, there could be a few obstacles that Gale Hover can't go over because of its height. Wait, why am I thinking about this problem too much? I can just dodge those obstacles. I almost forgot, I also have Tempest Burst that would boost my movement speed by 100% for 10 seconds. Wait, something feels off. When I used Tempest Burst about a few days ago, I felt that the skill lasted longer. It was at this moment that Horus opened his eyes and commanded the system to reveal details about the Tempest Burst skill and his movement skill. Ding! Ding! In an instant, 2 screens appeared in front of him. He first looked at the details about his movement skill as he wanted to make sure that he really had a movement speed over 300 meters per hour. Seeing that his movement speed was now at 310 meters per hour, he closed the first screen and looked at the screen that talked about Tempest Burst, only to turn silent in shock. __. Tempest Burst, LV 6. With high proficiency and affinity with the wind, the stick can temporarily control large amounts of wind, allowing the stick to either move faster, or attack with stronger force. Effect: 2x the movement speed, attack power, and attack speed. Effect duration: 20 seconds. Cooldown: 5 hours. Note: the effect duration, and cooldown will improve based on the level of the movement skill. __. Of course, knowing that Tempestuous Spiritus Glide is just a transformed and renamed version of Tempest Roll, he knew that he could still use Tempest Burst. But to think that his Tempest Burst actually improved in terms of effect duration and cooldown, it was absurd. Slapping his non-existent face with non-existent hands, he snapped back to reality, closing the screen before letting out an aura of wonder and awe. With the Gale Hover spell and the Tempest Burst skill activated simultaneously, I could have a movement speed that is beyond 1 kilometer an hour. If only I had a longer lasting Tempest Burst and Gale Hover, this trial would be finished in less than 10 hours, tops. Solidifying the plan he had in mind to complete the second trial, he let out a sigh as he muttered to himself, and this is why I should always grind my skills up. After grinding life and will points, I'll make sure to raise all of my active and possibly passive skills to S grade or even X grade. After that, Oris waited out the few remaining minutes of rest he had, taking this time to deactivate his Spirit Energy Ascension skill that unknowingly went up 2 levels in the first trial and explore the entirety of the Green Jade Hall. It only spanned around 50 meters in radius anyway, so it didn't take him long to see everything within the hall. Only 1 minute remains before the second trial starts. The disembodied voice resounded throughout the hall all of a sudden, which Oris only paid a little attention to as it wasn't the real thing. It was only exactly a minute later did Oris truly pay attention to the announcement of the disembodied voice. The 10 minutes of rest time are now over. All of the inheritor's skills shall be reset as the second trial, the speed trial, shall now begin. Whoosh! In an instant, the Green Jade Hall that only spanned 50 meters in radius expanded towards a single direction as it gradually became a long corridor that Oris couldn't see the end of. He looked at the hall for a bit and noticed that there were no obstacles whatsoever. Oris thought that it would take a while for the obstacles to appear, so he waited a few more minutes, only for it to be futile. The speed trial begins. 24 hours are now counting down. Hearing this announcement, Oris activated his movement skill as he couldn't help but mutter to himself, all that preparation I did was for naught. Are you fucking kidding me? In another Green Jade Hall. Reward has been rolled. The passive skill, Blessing of the Tetraelemental Tempest, has been obtained. After hearing this statement, Aurelia knew instantly that this skill was something extremely great from the name alone. Not long after, a special sound could be heard throughout the Green Jade Hall. Normally, it would only be heard when Oris had a skill leveling up or doing something related to the system. But in this case, ding! The skill, Blessing of the Tetraelemental Tempest, has been obtained. Blessing of the Tetraelemental Tempest has shown great compatibility with the user's Tempest Affinity skill. A new skill has been formed. Tetraelemental Tempest Affinity has been created. The sound resounded throughout Aurelia's hall as well. Not long after, a holographic and semi-transparent screen that was the same as Oris' screens appeared in front of Aurelia's field of vision. Oh? 2 skills in one go? Aurelia couldn't help but smile inwardly as she felt that the trial was definitely a blessing in disguise. While smiling at the gain she got, she remembered that she planned to leave the trial once this trial was done. Only for that decision to change. You know what? I'll just apologize to Oris once I'm done with this trial. Aurelia let out a cheerful aura as she prepared for the next trial she would have to face. Within the Tempest Ruin. A few hours have passed since Arden and Mira reached the place where they saw the red dot blink, sparing all of this time to train their wind-related skills inside this place where the wind was extremely concentrated. Letting out soft huffs every once in a while, Mira, who was practicing her wind elemental spells, couldn't help but look at Arden, who was consistently swinging his axe up and down at a steady pace. Hey, it's already around 4 in the afternoon? Don't you think we should head back and tell Dane about the Spirita's disappearance? Mira couldn't help but ask. Hearing her question, Arden brought his axe down and brought out the crystal Dane gave to him from his pocket. Noticing that there was still no red inside the crystal, Arden couldn't help but let out a sigh as he nodded and placed the axe on his back. Yeah, I think it's time to tell him. You better help me out on explaining this, okay, Mira? Hee. Only if you pay me a few gold coins. TCH, miser. As they cracked a few jokes in the middle of their journey back to the Seraph Kingdom, Arden and Mira didn't know that the red was still there. It was still at the tip of the crystal. Only covered by Arden's finger when he looked at it. Chapter 49. Within the vast expanse of nothingness, normally called the universe or the celestial plane by many people, there lies a white cube that spans a few hundred meters on all sides, with a person inside it being on the level of a god. That god was actually a goddess, and her name was Kurahana. This was Kurahana's special space. Looking at the orb that always broadcasted Oris' every move, Kurahana nodded to herself as she knew that she made the right choice as to which soul to use. As expected from one of the top players of Infinite Stick Evolution. Once his early game memories were recovered, he would now aim to make his base form stronger in preparation for the future. At this moment, Kurahana couldn't help but giggle a bit. Anyways, it won't be possible for him to reach the level he wants since his fate has already been set. Ding! All of a sudden, a sound that was usually heard when Aura's system did something resounded throughout the inside of the white cube, making Kurahana fall into silence. Not long after, she couldn't help but ask herself, where did that sound came from? If anyone were to be in the white space right now, they would be smitten by Kurahana's beauty as a goddess even when frowning. But considering the fact that Kurahana looked like a 15-year-old that had a bountiful bosom, it was more likely that that person would be arrested in a heartbeat. Kurahana then tried to search where that sound came from, only for it to come from the orb she used to look at Oris from afar. Seeing what Oris was currently doing, which was traversing an extremely long green corridor, she couldn't help but frown as to where it came from. He didn't use his system in these past few minutes, so it could mean. At this point, Kurahana remembered the stick that was beside Oris around half a day ago. It was a stick that had a trace of divinity within it, which was the same as Oris, having a trace of Kurahana's divinity. When she first found out that there was another god that found her plans and used it to bolster their own power as well, she couldn't help but get furious as it was her ace in the hole, allowing to keep her popularity as a weapon craftsman. Letting out a soft sigh to calm her senses, she softly commanded, "Zoom out." Whoosh! In an instant, the view from orb that was focused on Oris suddenly expanded to cover the whole inheritance, which was composed of multiple corridors and halls. Looking closely, Kurahana noticed that there was another stick other than Oris that was tackling the inheritance. Is this possibly? Kurahana instantly zoomed in on that stick, feeling that her plans were going to be ruined in the future. Looking at the stick from up close through the orb, she noticed that the trace of divinity was extremely familiar to her. Not only that, she also proved that the system's sound came from the stick as well, coincidentally seeing that the stick was interacting with a semi-transparent screen. She closed her eyes for a bit, grasping a small hint of the divinity that the stick exuded and used a special divine technique to find out which god knew of her, Kurahana's special world. Bang! Not long after, Kurahana's eyes opened up and within it flashed a raging flame that could swallow a person whole. As this happened, multiple white lightning bolts appeared on the periphery of the white cube, spreading outwards as it lit up a small part of the celestial plane with an unimaginable brightness. That bitch! Kurahana couldn't help but grit her teeth as she remembered a goddess face that seemed to be mocking her. To think that the goddess of kinship, Familia, has caught wind of my special world that allows me to procure special items. Who knows when she would spread it to other gods? Still in a fit of rage, Kurahana stood up and opened a rift towards the celestial plane as she was heading towards Familia's plane. Her mind was filled with the thought of silence. The thought of silencing Familia once and for all. I don't know how she found it out, but I better silence her before it gets worse. Whoosh! At the next instant, Kurahana left her plane, leaving the orb to broadcast Aurelia's actions. What she didn't know was that this would change Aura's fate in the future. Gale hover. Tempest burst. Whoosh! Darting towards the end of the corridor with a temporarily boosted speed of 1.55 kilometers per hour that would last for 20 seconds at most, Oris was thinking of what to do after finishing the trial and killing the boss of the Lesser Experience Haven. I still have 2 more trials after this according to the disembodied voice that announces the trials I would have to take. But it doesn't hurt to prepare for the future, right? Well, first off, I really have to fill my life and will points to the limit. No wait, I have passive skills that boost the limit of my life and will points, which could possibly net me a better evolution. I should also kill the bosses of the places where I could grind experience since all of them give out Genesis points, which would allow the Genesis tree to grow faster. But what I should really do in the meantime is, Oris' eyes glinted as he continued to traverse the long green corridor. Grind. My skills. Whoosh. In an instant, multiple spirit spears were creating from the floating animus that hovered around his body. Concurrently, the Animus that held SP and recovered his HP and SP were being destroyed and created multiple times in a second. First off, grind my SP storage skill and the Spirit Spear skill. Spirit Spear, Denial. Whoosh. 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 Continuing along the path, Horus would grind all of the skills that he could grind while making sure that Gale Hover and Tempest Burst were used at the instant they were off cooldown. Since I have time to spare, this is what I should be doing. Around 2 days have passed since Arton and Mira decided to give up on chasing the Spiritas and headed back to the Seraph Kingdom within the continent whose name is still unknown. Using the Fly spell and the Child of the Wind buff allowed them to traverse most of the distance at a fast speed, but a person's MP had its limit, needing them to take rests in villages and small towns in between these flights, allowing Mira to recover her MP and not let her suffer from mana depletion, which was something a mage wouldn't want to happen. Whoosh! The two of them landed in front of an extremely tall tower within the Seraph Kingdom. It was considered as a landmark of the Seraph Kingdom, which was also a haven for all mages of all ranks. This tower in front of them was the Arcana Tower. Halt! As they were going to walk into the Arcana Tower, they were barred of entry by a guard that exuded a menacing aura towards the two. Arton, whatever you do, don't fight against this guy. Mira looked at Arton as she whispered a few words of warning near Arton's ear. What you should do is answer his every question and use Dane's name as a way to enter the tower. You don't want to face the wrath of a rank 6 Supreme Arcana Guard, now do you? Gulp. Arton couldn't help but swallow his saliva as beads of cold sweat dropped from his forehead. He actually had the notion of doing just that. He looked at Mira and gave a gaze of gratitude before looking at the mighty guard in front of them. State your purpose, the guard commanded. Mira bowed respectfully to the guard, to which Arton bowed as well. Afterwards, Mira flashed a badge that had a drawing of a magic staff covered in leaves in the middle and said, I am Mira, a rank 3 elementalist of the Arcana Tower. I am here under the orders of rank 4 High Mage Dane to report a mission sent by him. The guard that could kill in one hit nodded at Mira's words and looked at Arton. How about you? Arton couldn't help but shiver in front of the guard's gaze, but he forcefully concealed it and answered in a somewhat calm tone. I am Arton, a rank 2 battle warrior, no affiliation. I am also here under the orders of the rank 4 High Mage Dane to report a mission sent by him. The guard stared at Arton for a bit before nodding his head and giving way to the two, letting them walk through the entrance of the Arcana Tower without difficulty. Hey Mira, why did you use Dane's name? Since you're a member of the Arcana Tower, wouldn't you be able to enter and exit the tower as you please? Arton couldn't help but ask as they gradually headed up towards the 40th floor of the Arcana Tower, the floor meant for rank 4 high mages and equivalent magic-related classes. Mira shook her head as she replied, although I'm a member of the Arcana Tower, I need to be a rank 4 Grand Elementalist at least to enter and exit the tower without the guard batting an eye. Anyways, let's hurry up and tell Dane about his mission. Chapter 50. Whoosh. Whoosh. Since Mira was a rank 3 elementalist that knew how to boost her movement speed with the help of the elements, and Arton was a rank 2 battle warrior that had higher strength and endurance compared to other people of the same rank, it only took them around 10 minutes to reach the 40th floor of the Arcana Tower, which was near the middle of the extremely high tower that spanned over 100 floors. They stood in front of the doorway that served as the entrance and exit of the 40th floor. Mira told Arton along the way that they could not enter this floor unless they had the permission of a rank 4 high mage or higher. Hence, being a shrewd person because of her increased intelligence, Mira asked Arton to give her the crystal that Dane gave him. After that, Mira infused mana into her voice as she spoke into the crystal. Arton looked at this sight with confusion as he had no idea what Mira was doing. Not only that, the words that came out of Mira's mouth felt like it was muffled by a large pool of water. What are you doing to the crystal? Arton couldn't help but ask. Mira looked at Arton with a casual gaze and replied, since the crystal allows us to see the Spirita's position, this meant that Dane casted a spell on the crystal that allowed us to see what he was sensing since he casted a tracking spell on the Spiritas. In other words, we can basically talk to Dane through this crystal if we knew how to do so. As Arden was still somewhat confused by Myra's explanation, a dashingly handsome man that wore a crimson-red robe and black-rimmed glasses that complemented his black hair appeared on the other side of the doorway, looking at the two with a light smile. "Oh, if it isn't Arden and Mira. Let's talk inside my place." This man was Dane, the one that hired Arden and Mira to catch the Spiritas he wanted to procure the special weapon needed by His Highness Prince Vanadar. Mira and Arden looked at each other and nodded before following Dane into the 40th floor. A few minutes later, they entered a secluded room within the 40th floor that was meant for Dane's experiments and other magic-related stuff. So, Dane grabbed a chair and sat on it, to which Mira and Arden grabbed a nearby chair and sat on it as well, looking at Dane with slight fear. "Did you guys catch the Spiritas?" Arden was about to answer Dane's question, only to be stopped by Mira before he could really speak his mind. Mira shook her head as she respectfully replied, "Venerable High Mage Dane, we were unsuccessful in the capture of the Spiritas as it disappeared in the midst of our journey." Dane raised his eyebrow and looked at Mira intently before asking, "Disappeared? The Spiritas? How would it disappear?" "That was a Spiritas that was inclined to the wind element. If it had an innate spell of the wind element that allowed it to travel far and out of reach of my magic tracking spell, then I can understand that." Dane did not want to use formal language like Mira. He was not only talking to Mira after all, talking in a formal language would make Arden feel left out. And if it was a Spiritas inclined to the space element, I could understand that as well. But we're talking about a Spiritas of the wind element here. Judging from the aura of energy it exudes, it wouldn't even be able to cast high-leveled wind magic. In an instant, Mira was at a loss for words to say. After a few moments of silence, the only words that came out of Myra's mouth was, "How? How, what? How do I know that Spiritas can only cast low-leveled magic? How do I know that Spiritas has a low energy pool?" Dane replied in a passive-aggressive manner. "Most of the low-ranking mages don't know this, so this will pretty much give you a head start in crafting a special staff for you, Mira. As for you, Arden, it'll let you take note of special inanimate objects that might sell for a lot." Dane sighed and continued. "Although there are some inanimate objects in the world that have an energy pool within them, a small amount only gets captured. Do you know why?" "Why?" Arden, who was stopped by Mira from answering, looked at Dane with a curious gaze. Dane noticed his gaze and became a bit more serious in his words. "Most of the inanimate objects in the world that have energy have souls." Arden and Mira were at a loss for words at the instant Dane was finished replying. The only word that came out of their mouths afterwards was, "What?" It was unbelievable for me as well. Dane knew their reactions far too well, as he also reacted that way when he first knew of this. To think that inanimate objects have souls and an intelligence that could be on par with humans, if it wasn't for their bodies, they would definitely become a force to be reckoned with. Dane leaned forward by a bit and whispered, "You guys have heard of myths and legends of heroes being born from inanimate objects, right? In truth, these heroes evolved from inanimate objects, becoming species that didn't lose out to our intelligence." Being bombarded with a shocking fact one after the other, the two were left speechless as Dane said, "Give me the crystal." Mira, who grabbed the crystal from Arden, absent-mindedly gave it to Dane, to which Dane looked at it from all angles. After a few seconds of scrutinizing, Dane couldn't but say in shock, "You're right, the red that represents the Spiritas is gone." At this moment in time, Arden and Mira finally processed the information they got from Dane and kept their mouths shut for the time being as Dane was seriously examining the crystal. A few seconds later, Dane noticed something off and said, "Wait, that's not right. Although the Spiritas is gone in the crystal, I can still sense it." He then scrutinized the crystal one more time and finally found the thing he was looking for. Aha! Hearing this come out from Dane's mouth, Mira and Arden knew at first glance that they forgot something. What did you find, the Venerable High Mage D. Dane?" Mira, being the one to break the ice, asked. Dane, who finally realized the mistakes of the two, looked at the two with a serious glance and said, "The Spiritas isn't gone." "Eh? How could that be?" Arden couldn't help but blurt out. "I double-checked it every time I looked at the crystal. I looked at it from every angle." As Arden was still talking, Dane rotated the crystal 90 degrees, letting Arden and Mira seeing a blinking red on the tip of the crystal. This must have been covered by your fingers, hence you didn't see it. Dane couldn't help but sigh as he replied. Not long after, he placed the crystal on a nearby desk and grabbed a small pouch, to which he gave to Mira and Arden. You've already exerted a lot of effort into capturing the Spiritas. Although you failed in capturing it, I won't let you leave empty-handed. Within that bag is 500 gold coins. Even though the amount of gold they received was 1/10 of what was promised, Arden and Mira bowed respectfully towards Dane and said a few words of gratitude before leaving the Arcana Tower and parting their own ways. As for Dane, he looked at the crystal that had a blinking red on its tip and side. He laid his head down on the desk as he muttered, "If I try and capture the Spiritas myself, I would of course become successful in doing so, but if my presence were to be gone for a small bit within the Seraph Kingdom, the 8th Prince would lose his standing and perhaps lose his right to fight for the throne. If I don't, the weapon that the 8th Prince can wield would only be a magic-grade weapon at most if infused with my magic. What should I do?" Dane was at a crossroads in terms of what to do. Not long after, a flame of firm determination appeared in his eyes as he used the crystal he used to contact Prince Vanadier and Arden to contact another person he knew. "Hello? Is Jihan there? Tell him that I want the highest quality wood of the wind element as fast as possible." "Oh. I'm talking to him right now? Well, hey, it's Dane. Anyways, you've heard what I wanted, right? What am I going to use it for? I'm going to infuse it with magic and craft a weapon with it." "Eh? You want to buy the finished product from me? Impossible. That weapon will be used for another purpose." "All right. Contact me if you have the goods prepared, okay?" Putting the crystal down that was known by many people as the communication crystal, Dane let out a sigh and muttered, "If that Spiritas was used as the main material for the weapon, it would definitely make the weapon an evolving weapon and even perhaps reach a grade beyond myth." Putting this weapon problem to the back of his head, Dane placed the crystal he used to track the Spiritas under the desk and decided to create a special wind element spell for the weapon that was going to be used by Prince Vanadier in the future. This was Reincarnated as a Stick. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments if you would like next chapters. Have a wonderful day and come again.